Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
This one's special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
All right, happy Friday morning, Bryan College Station. Welcome to the second and final this week edition, B-Team edition of TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are inside the Rollo Insurance Studios on a heavy, muggy, little rainy Friday morning. Feels like a Monday outside, but it never feels like a Monday for me when I'm sitting next to Olin Buchanan. Good morning, OB.
Good morning.
Did you dodge the rain last night and this morning?
Yeah, I didn't get wet. Didn't get wet at all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was inside, and then the rain stopped this morning before I got
I'm ready for this cool front it's supposed to make its way through today.
Really?
Tonight.
How cold is it supposed to get?
Cooler than today. But it's just been thick.
Thick.
And I'm thick in general.
Yeah.
And I don't like when thick things are around me. You're like jumping into a vat of, I don't know, goo. What's a viscous liquid you can think of off the top of your head that will keep us on the radio waves? Paint?
No, I was trying to think something like petroleum jelly.
Petroleum jelly.
That's not a liquid, is it?
Happy Friday, everybody.
It's not a liquid.
Again, I'm Ryan Brauninger in the host chair. That's OB. This is the Go Hour presented by Maroon or presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Maroon U is your ultimate stop for brand name apparel, gifts, and accessories for the entire family. We want you to interact with the show today. Number one, I am dead on my feet. This is the only time I'm going to say anything about it. I had a game last night in Temple, Texas. It started raining at 4:30-ish p.m. over there, and I'm looking at the radar, and it's the only place I would say if you cut Texas right in half, it was the only place on the eastern half of the state that was getting any rain, and it wouldn't move. It red cell over Temple, Killeen, Belton for the better part of 2 hours. And so the game that I was going to, Temple against Harker Heights, it didn't start, supposed to start at 7. It didn't start until about 8:15. I didn't get out of there until after 11. Long story short, I wasn't in bed until about 1:30. And then back up here this morning at 7. That's the last I'm going to talk about it because it's part of the job.
Why would Temple play on a Thursday night?
A lot of teams moved their games to Thursday this week so that they could get a better prep for playoffs starting next week.
Oh.
And so there were yesterday's Thursday slate across the state of Texas was as numerous as it's been all year for that reason. And a lot of them were games, more specifically even, the smaller school games, because as you go through the playoffs, when you get to the state championship week, 2A, 3A, they play early in the week.
Yeah.
So they'll play Thursday and Friday, and so they want to keep their schedule as close to possible for the remainder of the playoffs. So
didn't have anything to do with deer season or anything like that?
I don't think so, but it was for a district championship last night, and I felt bad because you don't feel bad. I mean, it's just kind of the nature of the beast. That game, the loser got to play Duncanville.
I remember out in East Texas one time, I think I might have the game wrong, but I think it was Henderson and Chapel Hill, and they were playing, one of the coaches on, I think it was the Henderson sideline, was wearing camo because as soon as the game was over, they were going to be heading out to the deer.
My favorite Olin Buchanan stories start with him strumming his chin and reminiscing about the old. You can see the East Texas memories just flood over him when he starts stroking his chin like that. All right, you're going to interact with the show, 979-693-1150, Little Sluggers text line Boss Firearms Hotline. We were typically in the Holistic Planning Cool Zone, which is right over there to my left. Nick, can you switch to that camera? Everybody can see the Holistic Planning Cool Zone. Look at there.
There it is.
Star producer Nick Savage on the ones and twos. That's where we normally would be. That's where David normally would be. But, like I said yesterday, anytime I'm sitting next to OB, we're in the cool zone. But the NFL has recently become the last of the Big Four North American sports league to allow private equity firms to acquire ownership stakes in its teams. For years, professional sports investing was reserved for the ultra-wealthy. Not anymore. If you are interested in learning more about professional sports investing and to determine if it may be appropriate for you, Holistic Planning is your ticket. Go to investinprosports.com today. This is the part of the show, especially the first hour, where I'm looking at David's rundown, my notes that I've made, and I feel like this is the NASCAR, right? We're slapping all the sponsorships all over.
Yeah, I think we need to have a NASCAR suit.
And this is supposed to be coffee talk. You know what that's presented by?
Coffee.
TexAgs coffee. Jeez.
Yeah.
Maybe you need a cup.
I don't drink coffee, but I know Wild Palomo and down in El Salvador, he supplies a lot of that coffee.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Okay. Coffee Talk presented by TexAgs Coffee. BTHO the morning by going to texags.com/coffee.
My wife's a coffee drinker.
Is she?
Yeah, she loves it.
She's smarter than you.
She says that coffee's really good, too.
She's smarter than you and better looking than you.
Well,
so is mine, though. I think we all try to marry that way.
I finally just gave in to her advances.
One of these days we're going to have like one of these bye weeks or maybe in the middle of the summer, and we're going to surprise you with Irma on set.
She won't come on.
Why not?
She doesn't like to be.
Well, she needs to set the record straight because you've had how many years now of running your mouth uninterrupted?
I just speak the truth.
Okay. I think maybe your version of the truth, which might be different than hers. Her recollections may be a little bit different. Over in the Angry Elephant News and Social Center this morning, McKinley Polansky. McKinley, good morning.
She doesn't look angry at all.
Morning.
No, she's very vibrant, good colors, pink and black.
Yep. Pink and black, my favorite color.
Those are your two favorite colors?
Well, pink.
Oh, okay.
I guess black's only like a color.
Why? Hold on, time out. I have an opinion on this.
Well, kind of, right?
My color palette is mostly black stuff.
Yeah, I like wearing black, but is it like a color?
Yes.
Or is it an absence of color?
Yeah, that's the way to put it.
I think it's a color. Like if you can put it on something, it's a color. But this is an interesting, what is this? A philosophical debate. Is black a color? Is water wet?
Yes.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yeah.
Why do we drive on parkways and park on driveways?
It's just what they're called.
I don't. Your brain, shallow like a pool.
No.
Like a kiddie pool.
I just don't bother myself with the inanities.
Hey, if it matters to somebody, it might not be a name.
Is that a word? Inanities?
I don't know. You're making stuff up. There's more stuff that you've just made up this morning. This is a bye-week Friday edition of TexAgs Live. McKinley, we are going to come to you in just a little bit. We've got to do running our mouths, but we're going to talk. We're going to do essentially a pick'em, but not an official pick'em, because with no A&M game on the docket this weekend, we're going to go through the primetime matchups, the biggest matchups in college football, give you our take on them. Maybe, if you're into wagering money on some of these things, maybe we can give you something that will help you place your bets. Or if I were you, I'd be fading anything at least that I picked. I don't know how good. Olin said he's been on a roll.
I've been on a roll the last 3 weeks.
Like a stick of butter. Olin's been on a roll.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go through all those games. I like bye weeks, Olin, because obviously for you, it's less work. It makes you have to come up, dig a little deeper into that kiddie pool brain of yours to come up with catchy and, captivating articles and headlines. But, you're not going to be on the road at a game and there's less press conference
I'm
work.
Game tonight.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Over at Reed Arena.
Got some hoops.
Did Buzz say anything interesting yesterday?
Actually, he did. Just talked about the things they need to do. And
you going to keep us in the dark about that?
Well, he reiterated that in their loss that that their opponent made more free throws than A&M attempted, and that is the A&M. A big part of their formula for success is to switch that around because A&M wants to shoot more than. So he talked about they've been focusing heavily on avoiding fouls, especially those away from the ball or away from the basket.
Did he say anything about? And again, when I speak about the game of basketball, I'm especially ignorant. So I'm not. There may not be an issue here.
If you put the ball through the hoop, you get 2 points.
Yeah, thank you.
And if
rules of the game.
Yeah, and if there's a stripe that's about 18.
I think I got to. Yeah,
okay,
if you shoot after beyond that,
yeah, you get 3
points.
Yeah.
I got a pretty good grasp for the rules and regulations of the game. I don't know strategy-wise. When I watched them play offense last, whatever night it was against UCF, it just seemed panicky and a little bit discombobulated. Did he speak anything about offensive rhythm, offensive flows, getting guys better looks? I know it's early in the season.
Yeah,
and again, I'm ignorant. He could be, that could be a fine. But
I think he just spoke about how they got to play better, and they know they do. And here's some things that they're going to focus on doing better. And that, Wade Taylor is an explosive player. He's going to score more than 12 points a game.
When we have
other
these
guys that have played really well at the end of last year, like Manny Obaski, played really well. You expect he's going to play better than he did the other night. Those kind of things.
Did you like any of the newcomers other than Payne?
Pharrell Payne, yeah, I don't know.
Great.
Yeah, you know what? Of course, Phelps didn't play, but C.J. Wilker came in and made a 3 or 2.
I feel like Wilcher, because he's an older guy, he's got a good idea of what he is. Yeah. There's no identity problem there. He's a very self-aware player. I like that as an older guy, knowing what you are, knowing what you're good at. And I feel like he just, again, I watched him in however many minutes he played in opening night. And I was like, hey, that kid's got a pretty good feel for what he is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's important. Know your role and be good in it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, whenever we have these basketball breakdowns, this is where I wish we really wouldn't have fired Logan Lee.
I think Logan fired us.
Oh, yeah, something like that.
The nicest guy I've ever met, Logan Lee.
Jeez, I don't know. I hope he doesn't listen to this show. I'll get a text about that. All right, we got to run our mouths, okay? It's presented by Brazos Running Company, your local Aggie-owned specialty running store where you can find Brooks and Hoka shoes located in Century Square below Star Cinema Grill in College Station. This is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Because there's no A&M game for us to sink our teeth into.
No football game.
Okay, well then go.
All right, well I want to see Pharrell Payne be a presence in the paint.
See, you're running thin on taglines this week, aren't you?
Because, well, look, we know that's been an issue for them really since Josh Nebo left. Inside scoring, scoring in the paint. And I want him to show that the 15 points that he had in the opener aren't just kind of a flash in the pan, that he's going to be that. I don't necessarily say he's going to be 15 points, but he's going to be that. I want him to start showing that he's going to be that guy you can count on for double figures just about every game. So I want to see that.
If I had to stick on basketball, I think I would want to see just where you don't go on these 5-6 minute droughts of not putting the ball through the basket. Mm-hmm. In open play. You go to the free throw line, and I know going to the free throw line, to me, A&M basketball, when they go to the free throw line, that's like A&M baseball walking. It's not glamorous.
Depending on who it is.
Right, but you get what I'm saying in terms of a stat. Like, it's kind of not as glorious of a stat, but it's vitally important to what they do. Yes. And so I understand that getting to the foul line and making shots is it kind of balances out these scoring droughts, right? It helps. But I'd like to just see a little bit more flow to where they're not going through, where Wade's having to pull up from 30 feet and try to make a basket.
I agree with you that. And one of the ways you can do that is get the ball in Wade's hands and let him draw fouls.
Yes.
Because when he goes to the foul line, it's you know what? I'm even going to say it's more reliable than a layup because A&M misses a lot of layups. I think A&M, unfortunately, over the past year or two, has probably had a lower success percentage on layups than Wade has had on free throws.
What's he shoot, 86, 87%?
I bet over his career he's in the high 80s.
And so you think they're missing 2 out of every 10 layups?
Yes.
Well, I will give them a little bit, play devil's advocate here. There's nobody trying to block the shot when you're at the foul line.
No, but you got to get there, though.
Yeah, you get 2 free throws.
You know what he's so good about? He's so good when someone's trailing him and he looks like he's going to be I'm talking about Wade, of course. And it looks like he's about to drive inside, but he somehow has that sense that someone's behind him, and so they're trying to keep.
Yeah, he'll slow
and then
down.
he stops and boom. Oh, put him at the free throw line. Here's 2.
Nick Savage pulling the strings this morning. Nick, how are you on a Friday? I caught you sleeping.
Yeah, I corrected in time. I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. What's it look like for you tonight? I know some things had to go well for your Rudder Rangers to make a playoff appearance. I think you got one result last night you needed.
Yeah, exactly. Favorable there. Belton lost to Brenham, best team in District 10. But Rudder just has to beat Waco tonight, and they got to hope Colleen Ellison takes down Waco University.
So what are the odds of both those things happening?
Well, one of them already has happened. Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking
one
about
of the 3,
yeah, correct. One of the 3. Sorry, but Waco is the worst team in the district, so Rudder has a good chance of getting the win here tonight. And Ellison and Waco U might be they might set the over for that game at like.
So hold on,
100.
you need Ellison to beat Waco U?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, that's
so we're big
Waco
Ellison Eagle fans tonight.
Waco
well.
U's got a 2026 receiver that is real deal. Got an offer from A&M, Texas. One of the best players in the state.
What's his name?
London Smith.
London Smith.
And they're having a good year, Waco U has. But I'm pulling for Brian Rudder. Obviously, I pull for all of our local teams. And I'll just give you a little hint here, Nick Savage. We have already gone through and picked our state champion done our state champion predictions. We meeting the TexAgs recruiting team. Yeah. So myself, Jason Howell, Kay Drawn. I'll give you a little insight without giving you the whole list. Nick, my 5A Division II, which is where Brian Rudder plays, my state champion is in your region. You have any idea who I'm talking about?
I need to go and look at the bracket, but that's got to be somebody from, last year Rudder was in their district, I'm guessing.
Richmond Randall.
Yep.
Brand new school. They're real good.
Real good.
Real good.
How about Consolidated Tigers?
They're 5A Division I.
Oh.
And you'll have to wait and see. Where, if anybody picked them, because they're number 2 right now in 5A Division I heading into the playoffs.
I knew they were
College
good.
Station High is also in the top. College Station High, I believe, is number 6.
Really?
That region's pretty good. So you're going to have A&M Consolidated, College Station, Pflugerville Weiss is very good. Pflugerville Weiss, and Galveston Ball. Galveston Ball is a little dinged up because Jonah Williams, their 5-star Texas commit, had broke his collarbone. So he's out for a while. Bad. And then Lufkin, the Pack's making a little comeback here. But the problem with 5A Division I is it's got the juggernaut in it. Alito.
Has Galveston Ball, as great as that program has been over the years, have they ever won a state championship? I don't think so.
You have to look it up.
Golden Tornado.
You have a computer in front of you. We talked about this yesterday. If you go to google.com and type in your questions, a lot of times they'll get answered.
Well, I'm going to say no on what will we call it, the Boogle?
The Olin Buchanan Google. All right, we come back. We're going to start picking games. See if we can get a little bit more rhythm. Maybe like Buzz's offense tonight. Get a little bit more rhythm for the remainder of the show as we continue along on a Friday morning. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
Whoever's pulling the strings at the mothership, I just want the owners of TexAgs to know that when I sent in that bumper music, Tall City Blues by Flatland Cavalry, I did not tell them to play the part where it says, I hate my job. That's not what I was going for. Josh, Brandon, Billy, Hunter. I doubt Hunter's listening. It's TexAgs Live.
That's not what you said during the break.
Okay, you want to start talking about things that have been said during the break.
If you think you can say it,
no, I can't say it on there. I can't even. The banality or the benign nature of what we were talking about, and then where you took it. I can't even tell you how we got to where you took it, because then it becomes overly obvious what happened in here. I'm glad McKinley was not paying attention.
Yeah, well, McKinley is of higher.
She's locked in because we're coming to her in just a second to talk about these games. Ryan Brauninger, Olin Buchanan. It's the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. TexAgs Live. We're presented by our title sponsor, David Gardner's Jewelers inside the Rollo Insurance Studios. Okay, here we go. Angry Elephant News and Social Center. This is not official pick'em.
All right.
You can't get in trouble for these. Have you been doing good? You've been doing good on these
lately.
Okay. Do we have the standings anywhere, Nick? Can you scrounge those up? We don't have them. I don't even know who's in first.
Billy was, but I think he had a tough week.
Has Billy ever won this thing?
I don't know.
Which is pretty
I think
funny.
Steve McKinney might be in first.
You know, it's almost
and if
like
he isn't, he'd probably threaten us to put him in first.
Steve?
Steve. He's a tough guy.
Whatever.
I got your numbers.
Oh, do you?
The numbers.
Who's in first?
Tied for first,
Who's
Billy
on
Liucci and Seth McKinney. 32-22 is their record.
Okay.
Steve McKinney.
That's against the spread?
OB, fourth place, 28-26, so you're above 500.
But I was in last.
Jamie McCoy, David Nuno, Caroline Fenton.
So you were in last.
Yeah, I think.
Only one place to go.
Well, actually, I've gone up like 4 places.
Well, here's my thing. If they're 30, would you say, Nick, 32-23 against the spread?
For Billy, yeah, Billy and Seth are 32-22. OB is 28-26.
Dude, if you're 10 games north of 500 against the spread, you're making good money.
Making money.
And OB had a good week last week. He was 5-1.
I listened to a lot of these.
I thought I was 4-2 last week and 5-1 the week before that.
Oh, maybe this is the week.
You're on a heater.
Before, so.
You're 9-3 in your last 12.
And I think I was pretty good the week before that.
All right, so these won't count for the standings,
Right.
but now that you know these numbers, I'm going to have Billy in here later. We're going to go through some of these games, and maybe you should be kind of trailing what Billy's picking. If you're 10 games north,
I think Billy might have been like 0-6 last week.
Well, still on the.
Do I get fired for that?
I don't know. If that's the truth, how can you get fired for it? All right, McKinley, let's go through some of these games. Do you have spreads and everything handy? Have you looked those up, or are you just going to give us the?
I have the game, the time, and what it's on.
Okay, I will get the spreads.
Okay.
But go ahead. Start with the first one.
Okay, first game is Florida at Texas. It will be at 11 a.m. on ABC.
Florida right now.
They've got to be double digit.
It's 21.5.
21.
DJ Lagway practiced some this week.
Yeah, I'm not buying that.
You think Texas covers the 21.5?
Yeah, probably.
Well, let's do this.
Because I saw that freshman transfer from Yale play against Georgia, and he just looked not very good to me.
I was listening to Josh Pate talk about this one last night on my drive home from Temple, and he was talking about how this is going to go how Texas wants it to go. If they come in and sleepwalk, because Florida, and we got to talk about Florida too. The vote of confidence, Billy Napier is going to return. You just wonder what that's going to do for them in the short term. We obviously know he's going to be there for another year, but in the short term, does it give the locker room a little bit more juice? Here's the thing about Billy Napier, and this is from me talking to some people that are pretty dialed in the Florida program.
Mm-hmm.
The kids and the players really like him. And it seems like the parents of the players really like him. And so they were fired up that they made this announcement. I think it was because I asked my guys why. Why would Florida do this right now? Why would Scott Strickland make that announcement public? And they said it has more to do that they don't have a president right now for him to run anything by. So he has kind of executive making decisions and decided that the best interest right now for the program, and it gives them more stability on their roster, it gives them more stability in recruiting, was to come out and say, no matter what happens, we're keeping Billy Napier. So you wonder if that just gives them a little bit more juice. I would actually think they're going to cover the number. What has Texas done recently to give you any kind of confidence that they're going to cover 21.5?
I mean, they can score, and I just don't think Florida's going to be able to score.
The problem is with no Lagway, and especially even if Lagway plays and he's not healthy,
right?
Texas is number 3 in the country in run defense.
Yeah, now some of that is you go back and see who they're playing, and you think, are they really that good? But I mean, they're playing a Florida team that's down to a third-string quarterback. So
well, and again though, but Florida hung around against Georgia.
I know.
I think that's a big number.
Until that third-string quarterback started throwing interceptions.
Well, Carson Beck was throwing interceptions. Quinn Ewers is throwing interceptions. Florida's been pretty good on defense.
I hope Florida wins.
I don't think they're going to win,
but
I think they can keep it within the number.
Then 21.5.
Yeah, I would take Florida to cover, Texas to win. All right, McKinley.
Okay. Next one is Miami at Georgia Tech. It's at 11 a.m. on ESPN.
Miami at Georgia Tech. Yellow Jackets under 13-point underdogs. Your Heisman favorite.
I think he's leading the way, Cam Ward. I'm going to tell you, I would take Miami in that one because
Haynes King supposedly a game time decision.
I'm taking Miami. I know Georgia Tech beat them last year when Miami coach Mario Cristobal made one of the worst coaching decisions in the history of football.
Almost a fireable offense.
But I think Miami is just having that kind of year.
Miami, though, they play with their food, right?
They do.
They have all year, and it hasn't bitten them yet.
And the ACC's going to prop them up too, ACC officiating.
Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist in that
absolutely.
way. Okay. I would say that I think this game's going to go like a lot of Miami games have.
Okay.
Where it's close at halftime, and I think a 2-3 score lead ends up being what kind of the final outcome. Georgia Tech is they're a live dog here, though. The way they play, they're tough. They try to run the football. If Haynes can go, that adds an element to their offense. I think they're disciplined. I like Brent Key, their head coach. I'm not saying that this is a upset alert immediately, but it's something I'm going to keep my eye on. Where if it's in the third quarter and it's a 3-point game, 7-point game, I'm going, okay, like Miami's going to have to pull another rabbit out of their hat here. But they were down. How were they down at halftime to Duke?
Yeah, and then they
winning. Scored every drive in the second half. So that's just kind of been their MO. It wouldn't surprise me if that happens here. I'm with you. I think Miami can win this game by 2 touchdowns, even if they kind of slop through it.
Yeah.
All right, McKinley. We'll do one more in this segment, and then we'll finish up in the next segment.
Okay, perfect. Georgia is traveling to Ole Miss. They're playing at 2:30 p.m. on ABC.
The Bulldogs.
Who'd you take, McKinley?
Probably Georgia.
Okay.
2.5-point favorite are Kirby Smart's Bulldogs. What do you make of Carson Beck?
I think he's an average quarterback that typically has good talent around him. Maybe slightly above average with good talent around him.
And what do you make of Jackson Dart?
I think he's an excellent quarterback.
Now, one thing that we have to talk about with this game, especially if you're going to bet it, is the Ole Miss injury list and how much of that is real and how much of that is Lane Kiffin trolling Greg Sankey. 26 players on it yesterday.
Yeah, I would think probably about 90% of it is trolling.
I don't like this guy. He wins football games. Fine. You can be a good coach, and I can still not like you as a dude.
Yeah, I can see that. I think he's great for college football. I think personalities of coaches are great for college football, and there's so few coaches that have a personality. Do I like him? No. Do I like him, especially when A&M's involved? No. But you got to admit, he's entertaining.
Yeah, I go back to that game here a couple of years ago when he had the nerve to call out Bryce Anderson about flopping, and his team is
they flop all over the place.
All over the place. And here's another thing: you said that to Bryce Anderson because of the setting you were in.
Mm-hmm.
If you were walking around on the street, that guy would never say that to Bryce Anderson.
No.
I know what Bryce Anderson do, and I know what his daddy Jay Anderson would do if somebody. But I digress. Ole Miss getting 2.5 points here at home.
That's the toughest one that we're going to face all week because the numbers say Ole Miss.
I think Ole Miss wins the game.
They may.
I mean, it's a field goal margin.
But remember when Georgia went to Texas, everybody was hyping up Texas, and Georgia's not playing well, and then they just go out there.
Yeah, Kirby Smart has an ability to kind of get his team to another level that not many coaches in the country do.
And it's almost like don't piss off Georgia.
Yeah, I don't think Ole Miss has done anything. I haven't seen anything in that like headlines this week.
It doesn't have to be. I don't mean that way. I'm talking about doubting on the national. Oh, you're saying we're going to lose? You're saying Texas is going to beat us? Yeah. Oh, you're saying Ole Miss? Well, all right. I guess I got to go put the white beater shirt on and go out. And,
What was the year where they had after they won the national championship, all the Georgia players were doing these media hits saying, everybody thought we were going to be 7-5, and like, who told you that?
No one ever believes that.
But Kirby does a good job of getting that through his players, and they play because of it.
So I guess I'm going to take Georgia.
Okay, we're on other sides of that. I love the way Jackson Dart's playing. I think if DJ Lagway stays healthy last week, like Florida can win that game.
Yes.
And I think Jackson Dart does things better than DJ Lagway. And I think he's in a more creative offense. I think Lane will have tricks for Georgia.
You think Lane's more creative than Billy Napier?
But I think that how many points do you think Georgia is going to have to score to win? That's a question that you like.
Yeah, 30.
Something I asked last week before A&M played South Carolina
30.
was how many points did South Carolina think they needed to score to win? It didn't matter because they scored plenty of it.
34.
But that's so 34?
34.
So you can think a 34-31 game, Georgia wins?
Unless Georgia just goes out and
I do think that Georgia can run the football at Ole Miss. I'll if you're going to give me points, I'll take the Rebels. Okay. All right, we're going to on the other side of the break, we're going to come back. McKinley, put a pin in that. We're coming right back to you. We've got 3 more games to pick as we roll right along at the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour on TexAgs Live, a Friday edition, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back to the program. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Ryan Brauninger, Olin Buchanan, McKinley Polanski inside the Rollo Insurance Studio. McKinley is sitting at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, where we will continue to break down games from this weekend. No Aggies, again, on the bye week. So not a lot of Aggie football talk, if that's what you're tuning in for this morning, but we're having fun talking about all the other games. And so we're going to extend that here into this segment. We got Jason Howell on the program a little bit later. I'm anticipating Billy. You guys know as good as I do. I don't know what time I'm anticipating Billy, but we're going to have Billy at some point. So we'll see. All right, McKinley, let's keep rolling. I believe our last game we talked about was Ole Miss, Georgia. So what do we got next?
Michigan is traveling to Indiana. They're playing at 2:30 p.m. on CBS.
Hey, if I'd have told you in August that Michigan's traveling to Indiana and there's a 14-point favorite in the game.
I would have thought it was probably going to be Michigan.
Exactly.
But it's Indiana.
It's Indiana, and I think they're going to cover.
I do too. I'm going with the Hoosiers.
I think they're going to – they haven't played a game where the opponent has been closer than 14 points to them. That's why this number, being a round number and not 13.5 or 14.5, is interesting to me. Maybe if you, depending on where you bet, if you're living out of the state or you have access to out of state, some of these sports betting websites or sports betting arenas will allow you to buy half a point.
Yeah,
I think getting it to 13.5 would be worth paying for.
Last time I went against Michigan, I lost.
I don't understand how Michigan, they can't complete a forward pass.
I picked USC to cover, and they did not.
Michigan is 5-4, and I think they've quit. They played hard against Oregon, and I think that was the gas emptying out of the tank.
Maybe so.
And I also think we got to start talking about Indiana as like not only is we did with the pretender-contender thing yesterday, they're obviously a contender, but I think they can get into the playoff, and I think they can win a game.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I want to see them actually beat somebody of substance first.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to hang their hat, and rightfully so. The strength of schedule is the worst of anybody in the top 12 right now. And I think that a lot of people are going to hang their hat on the performance that they show against Ohio State and Columbus. And that's probably the only quality measuring stick we're going to get between now and the playoff. But you just watch them play. They're old. They're veterans. Signetti is clearly doing something right as not just the coach at Indiana, but as a coach. Wherever he goes, he wins games. They seem like they got a good culture and they got a quarterback. Yeah. And if you think that Indiana is going to go undefeated this season, I bet you get really good odds on that right now.
Yeah.
Because but if you do, and then you could probably parlay that. If you really believe in Indiana, why wouldn't you parlay that into a Tanner Rourke Heisman bet as well?
Oh, I don't think Tanner's got the numbers to win the Heisman Trophy.
So I think you're right. But if you think Indiana can go undefeated, if you can sprinkle an extra $20 on a parlay that'll pay out, why not do it? I don't know. I just think if
Brauninger will be on his way to Lake Charles tonight to make bets and see old friends.
I would eat Daryl's. Eat at
Daryl's.
Best sandwich you'll ever have. All right, McKinley, next one.
Colorado is traveling to Texas Tech. They're playing at 3 p.m. on Fox.
I like the Red Raiders.
Oh, really?
I really like the Red Raiders here.
Okay, at home. And
I don't think either defense can stop a nosebleed.
Okay.
But I think Texas Tech runs the ball. They get enough stops. What atmosphere has Colorado played in that's going to be like Lubbock?
I don't know.
I don't know that they played anything close, right? UCF?
Nebraska? They got beat.
Nebraska's a good environment, and they got beat. But, it's not Tech, and that thing's going to be buzzing. Tortillas flying.
Well, they still do that with the tortillas?
Who knows? You put it past Red Raider fans?
What's the line on that one?
I thought McKinley gave it to. It's Colorado's favored by 3. I like Tech straight up.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Buffaloes.
Any reason?
I think they're actually playing some pretty decent ball.
Well, they got the 2 best players in the game, that's for sure. Again, I think it's just. I don't have an over/under here. I wish I had the total number. I'd probably go over. I don't think either team's going to stop anybody. All right, last one here, McKinley.
Alabama is traveling to LSU. They're playing at 6:30 p.m. on ABC.
Alabama
I don't even know who I want to win this game.
Alabama 2.5 point favorites. It makes more sense if you're A&M. You actually want LSU to win it.
Yeah, just get out.
But I need a shower trying to convince myself to pull for LSU in anything.
Yeah. Huh. You know, and LSU has trouble with running quarterbacks, as we saw.
I know. And potential weather game with that disturbance in the Gulf.
I don't know.
Make them LSU can't run the football. Well, I guess they've been up and down, but recently they haven't run the football. And they got a good back. I like Caden Durham. I think he's a good player.
But that Alabama defense is just not what it used to be.
And they're going to be starting backup left guard.
LSU, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Alabama.
I'm going to take Alabama too. It's just because I don't want to pull for LSU. All right, we got to go to break. On the other side, we'll close the Go Hour. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Everyone, David Nuno here in a moment right now for Snaps Clothing. They are the makers of the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snap shirts. I'm wearing it right now. This is part of their Tailgater collection. It's built for game day. My friend Edgar over there is doing great work. You've got to check out the clothing. It's the Pearl Snaps. It's the cool look. It's kind of hip, but also Western. You'll love it, and they have great stuff there. They'll keep you comfortable as you're repping your Aggie gear, and it's the place to go to get it. Whether you're watching the game from home or tailgating before watching the stands, these shirts have you covered. Head to snapsclothing.com. That is snapsclothing.com to gear up for the season.
All right, final segment of the Go Hour on a Friday morning edition of TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Olin, you got to shut up, okay? No more talking. Shut up. We're going over to Kay Naegeli for Around Aggieland. Presented by, I have it, Norman G. State Bank. For rock solid banking, visit normangstatebank.com.
He just shushed you. That was quite.
No, he was listening to the song, the Cody Johnson song that was playing. He was getting into it. He's about to say something. So it's better to catch a Olin train of thought while it's just now getting on the tracks.
Gotcha. Yeah, y'all have been on something just a little bit this morning. OB is ready for basketball season is what I'm getting at.
He's not saying anything. He's letting you talk.
Yeah, let's get into it. Texas A&M football is ranked number 14 in ESPN's latest and first college football playoff rankings. They are among 8 SEC teams that are in that list in this year's first ever 12-team format. Moving over to some men's basketball, the number 13 Aggies will welcome East Texas A&M. That used to be Texas A&M Commerce as of yesterday.
Which used to be East Texas State.
I knew it.
2 p.m. They changed their name yesterday, so they are now the East Texas A&M Lions. They will be at Reed Arena tonight. That tip-off is at 7 a.m. as Buzz Williams Aggies begin their 4-game homestand. On the women's basketball front, kids from the Brazos Valley were in attendance for an early game at Reed Arena just yesterday. The Aggies got into the win column, their first win of the season over UTSA, beating them 55-51. They will also continue their homestand. They will play Sunday against Western Michigan at 2 p.m. if you want to head to Reed Arena and check that one out. Volleyball, with just 6 regular season matches remaining, they are heading on the road. They will travel to number 13 Kentucky, that is today at 6 p.m., and then they will head to Tennessee on Sunday at noon. And then last but not least, the number 2 equestrian team, there it goes, will travel to number 1, and I forgot the team's name in here, so I'm going to have to double check that.
Who is it?
Auburn, that's who it is. Number 1 Auburn. They will head to Auburn.
All Olin had to do was make a horse noise through a completely off her game.
I know.
Do you do that every week?
I thought she had more horse sense than that. Only when she mentions a question.
Hold on, time out. Yesterday, Juan Marcos made a hysterical joke.
It was stupid.
It was hysterical.
On air?
No. It was between segments. Olin just looks up and goes, "I'm hungry." And Juan Marcos goes, "Hi, hungry, I'm Juan." And I thought it was so funny.
I told him, I said, I appreciate that because it reminds me of when my son was 4 and doing the same joke.
But it was so clean and wholesome and like, I don't think it
clean and wholesome.
No, that's why it didn't hit with Olin the way it should.
Why is she making a face?
Everybody's making a face.
That's a joke you would make, OB.
All right, we got to do bank on it. Presented by Vera Bank, authentic relationship banking built for life. Go see Joel Jackson and the team. Learn more at verabank.com. Olin, what you banking on?
I'm banking on Wade Taylor about 25-30 tonight against the East Texas A&M Lions.
Boy, you really went out on a limb there. I'm going to go double-double for Pharrell Payne.
Okay.
First double-double of
I'm here for it. Actually, I will be there for it.
All right. Have a good weekend, man. What's the plan for tomorrow?
Watching my niece, who's a freshman at A&M, playing some powder puff football tournament.
So you're watching football?
Yeah, but I'm watching girls play.
You're watching football. All right, we come back.
Felt like I watched that last
SEC Mike, when we come back on the other side of the break. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. 9 o'clock on a Friday morning. Mr. Tim McGraw bringing you back to TexAgs Live. Presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, I'm Ryan Brauninger. It's the B-Team edition inside the Rollo Insurance Studios. Over there in the Angry Elephant News and Social Center is McKinley Polanski. We're going to have to tap dance a little bit, waiting on SEC Mike, hopefully to get him here on the program shortly as we do every Friday. Billy is planning on walking through that door very soon. McKinley, do you have any kind of interactions with us? So don't forget, you want to call or text Boss Firearms Hotline, Little Sluggers text line, 979-693-1150. Was anybody entertained by hour one?
Oh, no one said anything. But
So no, okay, good.
But we have a few questions asking about, is it true that a DB is practicing at running back?
We'll wait for Billy to get in here and see what he says about that. I think he mentioned something about it in one of his pieces of content, or maybe it was something he did with David early in the week. I wasn't fully listening when that question came across. The odds are, and again, I'm not saying that this is factual, but the odds are is that Pete Thamel heard that Terry Bussey was practicing maybe at running back. Terry was listed as a DB for a long time. Maybe he got his wires crossed there. I don't know. All right, we have SEC Mike ready to go. Mr. Michael Bratton, great friend of the program. We go out to the Boss Firearms Hotline. Mike, thank you for joining us, man, on a Friday morning. How is it in your neck of the woods? It is muggy. It's a good week for a bye week in College Station. It's muggy. It's rainy. Football would be no good today or this weekend in Bryan College Station. How is it in your world?
Oh, it's pretty awesome, to be quite honest with you, but I always laugh when I do these because I feel like I work harder than David and Billy. I mean, where are these guys at?
Well, I think Billy's on his way in, so you can address that with him. David is actually doing something that is so out of character for him that we had Aaron Torres from Fox Sports on yesterday, and he was asking the same thing, and I said, just let David tell you about it because you'll get a big kick out of it if you know David at all and know what he's doing. He posted some stuff on Instagram, so you want to find him on Instagram, go look at what he's doing. You're going to get a little bit of a chuckle. He's not out eating pizza or anything like that, you know.
Okay.
Hey, how's cousin Shane had a 1 week, A&M only held him to that walking for 1 week. How's he doing with it?
Yeah, he was the happiest man in the country that Texas A&M lost, unfortunately. He's been betting against them every week, and they finally came and got him. Yeah. So, he didn't have to do his 10,000 steps anymore, but and now he's actually on his way. He tried to rope me into this too, but he's on his way to Oklahoma, Missouri. And, wow. Yeah, in the preseason, that, believe it or not, that was a game circled on our calendar, but thanks to what A&M did to Missouri and thanks to what virtually everybody in the SEC has done to Oklahoma short of Auburn, that's no longer really a marquee game that I really wanted to attend. You know what?
Yeah, you've been doing this a long time. And A&M loses on the road at South Carolina. I said going into their 2-game stretch against LSU and South Carolina, if you wanted to keep your season alive, you just probably needed to split, right? So where are you at on A&M after that road loss into a bye week? What is your viewpoint of the Aggies?
Yeah, nothing's really changed for me. I know that final score is a little lopsided, but it's a little deceiving the way the game played out and just – I really think South Carolina, because of that third loss, they're probably not going to ever really get too close to making the playoff. But if they had just the 2 losses, I think they would make the playoff. And I've been making the case that last year the committee proved with Florida State that they look into injuries. And if you're missing someone, they use as an excuse not to include Florida State. Well, I think it's only right to look at them and say, what are we going to sit here and say, okay, what about like South Carolina that lost without Lenora Sellers against LSU? I'm not saying you completely excuse that loss, but if we're going to use an injury to not put a team in, I think we could use an injury to say, well, they probably would have beat a team. They were up by 17 points in the first half to maybe even put South Carolina in the playoff field. If they keep doing what they did to A&M and they do that the last month of the season, I don't know how you leave them out of a 12-team playoff. I really don't.
What's up, Mike? It's Luch. So by your logic, I'm going to say we can do the same thing with Le'Veon Moss. But I'm kidding. That was but a devastating injury for the Aggies.
if they do overcome, I want to talk about A&M scenario. And I agree. I disagree when I don't think South Carolina's, I don't think they have a chance. I get your logic, and they do it a lot in March Madness. They implement that line of thinking, right? And that's kind of, they use that to justify seeding sometimes. Well, they played 8 games without all first team all SEC point guard or something. So I get what you're saying. I just don't think they're going to do it. And I also agree with South Carolina. And we talked about it last week, you and I. We've talked about it on this site the whole time. That team was really good. And they should have beaten LSU. I don't care what anybody says. I watched that game. They should have beaten them, even without Sellers, with that pick 6. Could have beaten Bama. But my thing is this. In the case of A&M, here's where it gets really interesting. Now the Aggies are in this place where they have to beat Texas, or it doesn't matter. But if they do, what are your thoughts on a Texas A&M team, say, playing Georgia or Tennessee, whoever comes out of that with, let's say, one of them has 1 loss, a close loss to one of those 2 teams in the SEC title game? How do you see that playing out for A&M when you start breaking down the playoff? And what are your thoughts on, you got that stance, what are your thoughts on the stance of a 10-3 A&M that loses to, say, like a number 2 Georgia?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be pretty wild, Billy, and I think A&M can certainly still get there. Mm-hmm. And again, just because they've lost 1 game, I don't think that should, well, technically 2, but 1 in the conference should eliminate them from anything. I mean, all these teams, I don't even think there's a clear number 1. And I think that has been proven with, I have Georgia number 1. I still have A&M. I think I dropped them number 3 after that one. But, I got Texas, too, I think. I'm splitting hairs here.
Yeah,
Georgia killed Texas. Kentucky nearly knocked off Georgia. This is just a wild, wild season, and results like last week are going to happen. So if A&M were to finish the deal and beat Texas, then, they're going to make the SEC championship, but I think they could beat whoever they're facing. So I don't even know why you're looking ahead to say, well, what if they lose? Yeah, they could win all of them. But to your point, that I think that is going to be the sketchiest thing, Billy, is what happens to potentially a 2-loss team, and A&M would fit that bill because one of the losses was out of conference. Mm-hmm. A 2-loss team in an SEC championship, if you're ranked 8th or lower in that conference championship game and you lose, there's a really good shot that the playoff committee is going to drop you out of the 12.
But could you imagine Greg Sankey would be on a pillar?
They might have to cancel the championship game.
Like what? So if A&M's going to be docked for playing in the championship game, and maybe Tennessee or Ole Miss or whoever is not, then why would A&M? What's the point of going to Atlanta?
Yeah, that's the big fear.
You're going to tell the SEC that their second best team's not going to get in the playoff, Mike?
They're going to say it's not necessarily if they wanted to, because they could make the case that, well, it's not necessarily the second best team because it wasn't a balanced schedule, which I don't think they would.
It'll be even worse if that scenario happens and they had just beaten Texas.
Yeah.
And they put Texas in.
Okay, so
and then you're sitting here saying, well, why in the heck are we playing these conference championships? Well, because there's a significant amount of money on the line. But yeah, that's going to happen eventually, and someone is going to get really upset about it, and it's going to call into question why we're still doing these SEC championships.
So here's my next question for you, because I actually don't think that would happen. I think the committee would have enough common sense to say, okay, like I'd be more worried about if A&M played LSU in the championship, got beat, they put Georgia in, and then maybe a 10-2 Ole Miss or Tennessee. I don't think they'd plop a Texas team in that just a week earlier the Aggies beat. Here's my question about Texas or anyone else. If there's going to be a 2-loss, because I was told before the season there's no way a 2-loss SEC team won't get in, and I said that I can see a way. It would be if there's like 5 1 or 2-loss teams in the conference, somebody's not getting in. My question for you, Mike, could you see a 2-loss SEC team not getting in? And if so, why is it Texas? Well, I mean, look at if Texas loses to A&M. Tell me their resume.
Billy, they beat Michigan.
Right.
They go 6-6. Come on, they're beating them. No, I am 100% with you. But where their ranking is now, it's hard to see Texas falling that far. But unless A&M really whips them good, maybe that'll cause a tumbling in the rankings. But where Texas is now,
yeah.
Unless they struggle week in and week out leading up to that A&M game, but
drop a couple spots,
winning.
yeah.
But the one team you forgot to mention, and A&M did a good job of eliminating this team, is Missouri.
True.
They're still on the table to be 10-2. They're ranked 24 in the debut playoff poll. They have no shot because they got dog whipped twice. So, and I don't think they're gonna. I think they're gonna lose to Oklahoma this weekend. But if they go 10-2, they're already done. So that's one team that could happen to. But yeah, I mean, I sure would get a kick out of Texas being left out of the playoff after all this talk. And I'm not sold that they can win out leading up to A&M. I'm really not.
You better keep an eye on, if you're an SEC fan of these schools that are kind of jumbled up, those two lost teams that you mentioned, you better keep an eye on the Big 12. And you need BYU to win the Big 12 because what happens if an undefeated BYU goes to conference championship weekend and they lose to Colorado or Iowa State? That's a bid-stealing league if that happens.
I haven't checked BYU's schedule. Do they have even a threat of a loss on the rest of the way?
It's the Big 12, so, I mean.
They're all threats. I mean, BYU.
Utah, Kansas, Arizona State, Houston. They're going to be favored in every one of those.
They're going to win every one of those. They'll win. I'd be shocked if they lost one of those.
It's just interesting. All right, Mike, where is your intrigue lie this week? Is it in Baton Rouge or is it in Oxford?
Well, yeah, both really. But for me, Oxford, because I'm picking Ole Miss to win.
Woo!
And
I'm with
it
him.
happens,
I am too.
if it happens, big if, I'll never call him Lane whiffing again. If he loses, I don't think I'll ever call him anything other than that because this is not 1 year built to this. This is multiple years. They've been building for this moment, getting Georgia on their campus. I think that was part of the reason Lane Kiffin was so upset. They didn't get the night game. They want every possible advantage going into this Georgia game. But here's the deal. I think my selection is more about Georgia. And yes, they looked like the team to beat for a quarter or about maybe a half against Alabama. They look like the team to beat against Texas. But other than that, they have not looked like the team to beat. So this is not the two-time national champion Georgia. This is not even last year Georgia, which probably should have won it all too. This is a different Georgia. And that doesn't mean they can't win it all, but they can't run the football. It's a huge issue. They don't have weapons, seemingly. Carson Beck we all know all the issues. He leads the SEC in interceptions. If you were to tell me Carson Beck's not going to throw an interception the rest of the year, I'd pick Georgia to win it all. But I don't know how you could say that given what we've seen so far. So I don't know. I really think Ole Miss, especially on the defensive side of the ball, people are not grasping how good they are there. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I like Jackson Dart in this moment, Lane Kiffin to finally show up. I like Ole Miss to knock off Georgia.
I'm with you, Mike. And I hate picking against Georgia because the last time I did, they put the most holy ass whipping on Texas.
And Kirby's better than anybody at getting his team to believe they're being doubted, like slighted.
They don't have. It won't take much this week.
Right.
People are going to call this a dogfight, but I think this game's going to look a lot like that. Their Ole Miss has lost to Kentucky, so they have shown they can lose that type of game. But I do think Dart is. He's looking better. I guess a lot of that will depend to me on Trey Harris. I guess he's listed as doubtful this week.
Mike, what do you make of this Ole Miss injury list? Is that legit or is that Lane trolling Greg Sankey?
Yeah, no, that's Lane being Lane, knowing that they're going to fake injuries. And on Sunday, when he gets a phone call from Sankey, he could say, look, we got 30 guys injured heading into the game. Yeah, this guy went down, that guy went down. They're all on the list. That's all that is.
I don't know how they put up with it.
Yeah, a guy that scored 5 touchdowns last week he was doubtful on Wednesday's report. I mean it's a joke. So you can't take anything at face value on that injury report. I think Trey Harris is going to suit up in this game too.
Yeah, I like Ole Miss to finally break through, and I'm reluctant to say that. What about Baton Rouge?
Man, this is a coin toss type game because I want to know if LSU, if they got exposed by A&M, perhaps. I mean, there for a minute, I was ready to crown Brian Kelly. I was ready to crown the LSU Tigers. I thought they were going to win by a decided margin there in Kyle Field, but of course it went completely the other way, and now I'm starting to question how good LSU is. But in second half against Ole Miss, in second half against Arkansas, I mean, they were pitching shutouts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think LSU is like dynamic on defense by any means, but they were certainly trending in the right direction. And for a half, they were trending that way against A&M. So I think that those are issues that can get cleaned up defending the running quarterback in 2 weeks. You know what I don't think can get cleaned up in 2 weeks? Alabama's secondary.
Right.
They're a train wreck. And I like LSU's advantage with Garrett Nussmeier and those receivers. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game, but I lean LSU in this one. And what a world we may be living in here where on November 9th, Alabama's eliminated from the playoff discussion. Is Caleb DeBoer, if he thinks his seat is warming up today, wait till Sunday.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm with you on that.
LSU can't run the football.
Can Bama?
They've got good backs. Like, I think Caden Durham's a good back, but I trust Jalen Milroe's dual threat ability. If you look where LSU has struggled, Mike, now they did a good job against Taylon Green, but Taylon Green was banged up, and there was no really a healthy Jaquindon Jackson. When they're facing offenses that have their two guys in the backfield that are a running back and a quarterback, a mobile quarterback and a good running back, they've really struggled.
Twice?
I think Bama's got that. I think Jalen Milroe could run for 90 yards and throw for 130, and Bama wins.
Do you have any idea, though, what Jalen Milroe has been running for here lately? I just got it pulled up.
It's 48 yards a game, something like that.
Right. So Mizzou 50, Tennessee 11, South Carolina 36, Vanderbilt 10. I mean, he is not.
Because I don't think Bama has a running game
guy that he has displayed. He's not been that this year.
I don't envision Garrett Nussmeier. I know Bama's secondary's got issues. They're without Garrett Dellinger at left guard. And if Nussmeier gets shaken, he will throw the ball to the other team.
I think so will Jalen Milroe. Or Jalen Milroe will throw 48 or 50% completion. I just think Bama hasn't run. Like, they don't have I know they've got decent backs. They don't have Le'Veon Moss. They don't have Rocket Sanders. Those two guys, what they do with that's why, to me, Sellers and Reed killed them so much, because it was the combination of both.
Yeah.
You give them 2 weeks to prepare. And that was the big thing with LSU, Mike, is they were saying, and so their little theory, their little talking point after they lost to A&M is going to get put to the test this week. And like you said, because all we heard was we didn't prepare for Marcel Reed. Their players said it. Their coach said it. Their media damn sure said it. I've never heard more crying out of Baton Rouge since I don't know when, since they took Mike the Tiger off the field. But
he's back this weekend.
Yeah, those guys did more crying in the SEC media. I know you heard them out of Baton Rouge. Oh, well, that's a damning indictment on your coach. I don't care the reasons why you couldn't stop it. Well, now you have 2 weeks to prepare for Jalen Milroe. I promise you they're playing Milroe. It's not Lane Kiffin. He's not listed as doubtful on the injury report. So now LSU is going to have to prove it. And you know what? I actually think they will.
Okay. Last question for both of you. We'll let you get out of here, Mike. We're up against a break. Who's the best football player right now in the SEC? And Billy, I'll get your take on it too.
Ooh, best football player in the SEC. I mean, it's going to sound crazy. Your listeners have jumped on me for my hot Vanderbilt
he's
takes.
right.
But I must stay there, man. Diego Pavia. Is he going to be first pick in the NFL draft? Certainly not. But we're just talking the game of college football. One guy, one game. I mean, how can you be anything but just over the moon on Diego Pavia and what he's brought? He's changed the culture at Vanderbilt.
I don't know if I disagree. Just with what he's done.
If it's going to be Diego, I'm not arguing Diego Pavia, by the way.
Sounds like you're about to.
No, but I'm saying if that's, then Le'Veon Moss was in the discussion.
I think Le'Veon. Well, I think he would have been a top 5.
Yeah.
Before, like quietly too, and I don't think many people would have put him in their top 5.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, but before that injury, I think he's the MVP of a, let's say, when he got in, he's an MVP of an SEC title contender without. I don't think there's a question about that, and we could talk for 20 minutes, Mike, on what that injury means to A&M and how they recover from it. Fortunately, they only have to recover for 2 SEC games because I think over the long haul, you just don't navigate that. But yeah, I think he was trending to be a top 5. I think he was, in my opinion, he was the best running back. He or the guy at Tennessee were the two best in the SEC, and he was trending that way statistically too. So big loss for the Aggies.
Kyle Kennard might be defensive MVP of the league.
He's really good, but I'm still going to go with Pavia. I mean, what he's done at Vanderbilt, right, Mike? Like it's like they beat Bama so long ago. Like just Vandy going into Auburn and winning at Jordan-Hare. Like if you took that Bama upset out and said they beat Auburn on the road, they went and beat they beat Kentucky. Like Vandy even doing that. Okay, but by the way, we're going to throw in Auburn, and by the way, they had Texas down to an onside kick. And right, Mike, they're not done yet.
No, I mean, it's going to sound crazy. They can make the college football playoff. They legitimately could if they now they have to win out. South Carolina, LSU, Tennessee. How would you deny them if they're winning all those games? You know
I bet they win one of those 3. I bet they win one of those 3.
I agree. Mike,
I think they can beat Tennessee.
I do too.
Yep. Mike, really appreciate your time, dude.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks,
SEC Mike
you,
on TexAgs Live. We're going to come back with a real short segment. Going to get to Jason Howell at the bottom of the hour. Billy will rejoin us in the 10 o'clock hour. TexAgs Live presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Live, bottom of the 9 o'clock hour. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We do have my friend and colleague, Jason Howell, waiting in the wings. We're going to go to him on the next segment so we can try to get back on the clock. We went long with Billy Liucci and SEC Mike. And, hey, Nick, do you realize that last question that I had to SEC Mike, I came up with that on the fly. And I never really thought about, like, who's the best player in the SEC right now?
Yeah, and, Pavia is definitely not a wrong answer.
But nobody has, nobody separated themselves.
Yeah, that's fair.
And you can make an argument. I mean, who at Georgia?
Ryan Williams at Bama?
Ryan Williams
possibly?
At Bama. I mean, Jackson Dart is probably your best bet. I mean, he's got the best Heisman odds, right?
Probably out of the bunch,
yeah,
I guess.
I don't think there's an SEC player in the top 10 Heisman odds unless it's Jackson Dart.
Well, he's been the consistent, player out of the SEC on OB's Heisman lists every week. So
Let's
I guess
see.
If you want to go there, yeah.
Let's see. Heisman odds. I mean, we're doing this live on air. This is what we do in B team broadcast of TexAgs Live. FanDuel, we know what? We need to get sports gambling legalized in the state. How about that? Yeah, Jackson Dart is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th. Get him at plus 2,000 right now, the same as Curtis Rourke at Indiana. That's why I brought it up with Olin. Like, if Curtis Rourke beats Ohio State, those odds are going to greatly change. If Jackson Dart beats Georgia, those odds are going to change. And so if you are walking around and you just got this itch, something inside of you says, I think Indiana's going undefeated, I would parlay that bet with a Curtis Rourke Heisman. And maybe you can get into a situation where you can hedge it a little bit as the Heisman ceremony gets closer. But you talk about bang for your buck. If you really believe in Indiana, you can probably get them both. What's surprising to me, keep talking on the Heisman train, is that Ashton Genty is now at plus 500. I think at one point you could have got him at like plus 185. So if you think Boise State is due for a run, there's still good value in Ashton Genty. He needs like 250 a game over the last 4 weeks of the season. And then do they have a conference title game?
Yeah, yes.
So
yeah,
he's got five. So he's got 5 games left. And he needs, well, if he got 5, it wouldn't need 250, but he's going to need around 200 yards a game to get to Barry Sanders.
That's a lot.
But if he gets there,
he's kind of fallen off the past few weeks. So I guess, compared to his normal output the first few weeks.
Well, was he averaging 11 yards a carry for the first 4 or 5 weeks? Something insane.
Like
but, he's down to 8 yards a carry right now. Let me look at Boise's schedule. They're going to win all these games. I mean, everybody's got them pretty comfortably in the playoff. Nevada, San Jose State, and Wyoming. So he's only got 4 games left, 3 regular season and then a conference championship game. So he does need 250 a game, and then whatever he does in the playoffs. But I guess, the Heisman will be it'll be done before the playoffs,
correct.
Right? Yeah. So those won't even count. So he's going to need a big few weeks. Nevada, their head coach is Jeff Choate, who was at Texas as the defensive coordinator. They're okay. But again, I think every opposing 11, every opposition 11 on defense against Boise State, like you saw it against San Diego State. Like as soon as the ball was snapped, guys were flying toward the line of scrimmage, and it's just you can outnumber Ashton Genty to a certain extent. So, but I do think, again, if you're looking for value picks, he's done enough up to this point in the season to go, okay, if he has a couple more really big ones, then the odds are gonna drop significantly, and I can get it at good value right now at plus 500. Anyway, interesting stuff. On the other side of the break, we're gonna have recruiting country. They missed it on Wednesday. Billy came in. So Jason's gonna join me for a couple of segments as we lead into the 10 o'clock hour. You're listening to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I'm Ryan Brauninger in the host chair for today. David will be back. We'll be back with you on Monday, and we are going to do a Friday edition of Recruiting Country, presented by Caprock Health System, a faster, patient-centered revolution in care with 2 ERs in Bryan College Station, the original ER in South College Station on William D. Fitch, the full-service hospital with an ER in Bryan on Briarcrest, online at caprockhealthsystem.com. We welcome in my friend and colleague, Mr. Jason Howell, joining us from the beautiful metropolis of Dallas-Fort Worth. Jason, good morning. Is it muggy and rainy up there yet?
It is. It is. They were moving around games like they were all over the state because of weather that they were expecting today up here. And I know I've got a 6 o'clock kickoff for that reason.
Yeah, I saw where one of the great mascot matchups in high school football this week, the Mason Punchers against the San Saba Armadillos, got moved up to 5 o'clock today to try to avoid weather. They can't. Yeah. It's an interesting week because you can't. Nobody really wants to push it back to Saturday because the playoff teams are going to get a shortened week then to get ready for their first round of playoff games. So they're going to try to get all these games in today. So we may be hanging around. I hope I'm not hanging around a stadium any longer than I had to last night. We got about an hour and 15-minute rain delay last night in Temple.
Yeah, but pretty bad there, man.
It got pretty western for a while. I'm not going to lie to you. All right, so let's start with this, okay? We'll start with the class of 2025. Only a few weeks left until, I don't even know, what are we calling it anymore? Signing day? I guess it's still called signing day. But
it is. Yeah, whatever. They're signing something. They're signing the scholarship papers and all that stuff, I guess.
So where are you at on, we'll start macro. Where are you at on what Mike Elko has done right now, just 3 weeks away from signing day?
I think he's done a masterful job, putting together one of the top classes in the country. He's addressed just about every need you could, and they did it in short order. They made priorities. They stuck to their board. They didn't go reaching. They made sure that they, addressed depth. They addressed, on the offensive line, you've got guys that can play up and down the offensive line. You've got you wanted speed at receiver. You got a couple guys that can bring that explosiveness to an offense. They did a really good job, top to bottom, in a short period of time when they had to hit the ground running with the portal and closing out the 24 class, where you had big questions with Terry Bussey and how
Dalen Evans
holding on to guys. I mean, you had some big things you had to do to close things out, and I think they've done a masterful job throughout it.
I think the fan base would probably be wanting more at receiver, but again, there's no reason for you to throw your hands up and throw your toys out of the bin based off a high school signing class anymore. You need to know what the roster is going to look like, and we both anticipate them being very active in the portal at a couple of positions, one of them being receiver.
No doubt about it. I think receiver is probably the one position I'd put a big circle around and say, that you got to find a playmaker. You got to find a difference maker, a guy that can come in right away. And even if you sign a 5-star guy, there's a chance that guy isn't that guy in year one. So your chances of finding that guy that can be an instant difference maker, it's in the portal as much as anywhere else.
All right, staying in your neck of the woods, we're kind of not up against the break, but we got about 3 or 4 minutes before I want to talk about what you're hearing on the latest on Michael Fasusi, offensive lineman out of Louisville, right in your backyard, committed to Oklahoma. There's been a lot of stuff happening in Norman. Brent Venables fires Seth Luttrell. What you're hearing the latest there, and then another kind of swarm of crystal balls in favor of A&M for Lamont Rogers, the offensive lineman out of Mesquite Horn, who's committed to Missouri. So your latest on those two DFW tackles.
I'll start with Lamont Rogers. They just wrapped up their season last night. He's been on A&M's radar and since the beginning of the recruiting cycle, and even when he committed to Missouri in July, we said, hey, let's put a pin in this one. We'll see what happens and how it develops over the course of the season. And we've seen him take a couple trips back. We've seen the A&M staff stay in communication, and continuing to hear that things are there seems to be a lot of mutual interest there, and I think A&M's trending in a very positive direction, as we've indicated on TexAgs, and as you're seeing out there in the industry. It's not just us feeling like by ourselves over here. There's A&M's got a good shot there. I don't have a definite timeline on that one, but it wouldn't surprise me if things kind of started to really happen and get real one way or the other. Is it going to really stick? Is it going to flip? I would think that you could see something like that happen in short order, especially now that the season's over. And then with Fasusi, things really started to pick up, I guess, in the last month. You saw Texas come in with the helicopter last week. You saw Oklahoma on the sidelines. He brought up Texas A&M to reporters after the game just to say, "Hey, look, y'all are talking about these other two teams. Texas A&M is a school I like too." So and this weekend we've got word that you're going to see Adam Cushing out there watching Louisville. So. I think A&M. We'll see how it all works out together. If
I think we would both lean
likely.
Yeah, we both lean away from it happening.
Yeah, I don't see it likely that you get both, but I think there's a really good shot that you end up with one or the other for sure.
All right, we're going to go to a break here. When we come back, Jason, let's get into some 2026 because I still think when Mike Elko and company were hired, they were behind in the class of 2025. They won't be in the class of 2026, and boy, have they started like they're not behind in that junior class. All right, a lot more with Jason Howell when we come back. You're listening to TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, back on TexAgs Live. Back out to the, I don't know if we call it the Boss Firearms Hotline. Let's do it. We're going to, massage the sponsor, Boss Firearms Hotline. Jason Howell joins us we continue Recruiting Country, presented by Caprock Health Systems. And Jason, during the commercial break, our fabulous producer, Nick Savage, walks in here and says, hey, I don't think we've said a word on TexAgs Live yet about Xavier Tiller. So we probably need to talk about Xavier Tiller. The Aggies land a commitment from one of the best tight ends in the South out of Fairburn, Georgia, Langston Hughes High School, 6'4", 220 pounds, 4-star kid, but had a 5-star offer list. Jason, when you watched Xavier Tiller on tape for the first time, what were some of the things that really stood out for you, and what's A&M getting here?
An exceptional athlete at the tight end position for number one. I mean, this is a guy who's a natural pass catcher. He is quick to locate and adjust to the ball. He runs routes like a receiver, and is just a giant target at 6'4", 220 pounds for any quarterback out there. There's a reason why he's been highly regarded and sought by top programs across the country. He is just he's a dynamic player at the tight end position. He knows he's a tight end, and the other thing that's a little less heralded is he's a willing blocker. He may not always get the guy, but man, he gets out there, and he when he does, it can be pretty brutal. He's he's out there working at it and getting better, and when you combine those things, that's a dirty weapon.
Yeah, I say oftentimes when you scout a high school tight end, it's not so much you don't say, okay, is he good at blocking? You say, is there intent for him to block? Does he want to block?
Yeah.
And you watch Xavier's tape, and he wants to block. And you talk about 6'4", 220, but I think you got to factor in his wingspan. He's got incredibly long arms. And so when you look at that frame, 6'4", 220 now, what's he going to look like in 18, 24, 36 months when it's his time to shine, on a college campus? It could be 6'4", 245, 250, no problem, maybe even 6'5". Guys that are typically that long-limbed, they're not done growing just yet. So another fantastic get for Texas A&M in the class of 2026, Jason. They've got 8 commitments, only 2 from the state of Texas. Again, I've said all along throughout the football season that 2025 was not going to be Mike Elko's proof of concept as head coach in terms of how he was going to recruit the high school ranks. They came in behind. They were swimming upstream a little bit. They were just trying to do what they could to get the best players. In 2026, though, they've established those relationships. They've had Trooper Taylor in the mix in Georgia. They've had Tony Gerard-Eddy in the mix in Dallas. Like, those long-term relationships that they've started to build should start reaping the fruits of them in the 2026 class more so than 2025. And I think 2026 is actually going to give us a little clearer picture of how this recruiting operation is going to function going forward.
Yeah, and you mentioned a lot of out-of-state. I think you're going to see the in-state bear quite a bit of fruit. I think they've been very active in Houston and in Dallas. They've and across the state.
San Antonio.
They
were just at Cibolo Steel last night to see Jonathan Hatton.
There you go. I mean, they're getting after it, and they're, like you said, they are positioning themselves very well with a number of guys. John Turntine, offensive lineman out of North Crowley, who I think a lot of people had already written off to Austin by a large degree, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. We'll see how it all plays out there, but I think they've made up ground for some guys that maybe had been written off elsewhere, and they've solidified their standing with guys who were very interested. KJ Ford has made multiple visits, Jalen Lott. You got Caden Finley, several others. You can just go down that list. Jermaine Bishop was just in town. So you could go down the list of top 2026 recruits in the state of Texas, and A&M is they put in a lot of work to make sure they're in on the guys that they feel like they need to be in on.
Yeah, they just made the top 4 for London Smith out of Waco University in that 26 class. Jamarian Carlton holds A&M in high regard. I saw him last night. I thought
Yeah.
I always thought he was good. Then when I saw him in pads, I'm like, okay, like I'm signing off on this kid. He does a lot of things that I really like. So, I'm excited about where they're at in 26. Jason, quick thoughts about just the start in that class. We got to go to break in you got about 30 seconds.
Yeah. You've started off big with the playmaker, receiver, and Aaron Gregory. You've hit on the defensive line. You've done a really good job kicking things off and building momentum. Helaman Kasuga. You've done a really good job of establishing some cornerstones in that class, and you set yourself up very well for a long process that's really going to kick off to a large degree starting in December, January.
All right, for Jason Howell, that's Recruiting Country. When we come back, maybe Billy Liucci, we think, on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. It's one of those songs that just puts you in a good mood, no matter where you're at. The chorus, Meet You in the Middle by Diamond Rio, bringing you back 10 o'clock hour TexAgs Live. inside the Rollo Insurance Studio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Don't forget, you want to interact with the show, 979-693-1150. Put McKinley Polanski to work in the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. I think the only thing that we've got is somebody asking if I was going to a concert.
Yeah, someone said, Brawny, are you going to TOR, which is Treaty Oak Revival? Drew asked.
Yeah, they're playing tonight at Wolfpen Creek, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. Friday nights in the fall, I'm kind of out of luck. So, 10 weeks or 11 weeks of the year, for sure, I'm going to be at high school football games. I have a couple of weeks now with Aggie baseball having scrimmages at home. My Fridays are pretty booked. Nobody's more upset about it than my wife because she wants to go do things on Friday nights too. So, yeah, it's just part of the job. I wish I could go. I've not seen Treaty Oak Revival play. They're my favorite band. Like right now, and it's not close. I can put on just Treaty Oak Revival on my Apple Music and let it play. Like, don't skip any songs.
So good.
There's been very few bands that I've ever interacted with and listened to where they were like that. The closest that I've had in terms of like, you just don't change any of their songs. Early Pat Green, which is probably way before your time.
I know who that is.
Right.
But
he's like early Texas country guy.
Yes.
He had some albums where, you just let it roll. I actually like some of Parker McCollum's early albums.
Yeah.
Limestone Kid, Probably Wrong. You could let those albums run for a long time. But most consistency over like catalogs has been Randy Rogers. I could let the Randy Rogers band just play and you don't skip any of the songs. Treaty Oak Revival is coming up on that territory. That's how good they are.
So good.
And I've heard they're working on a new album. Maybe they'll drop some of the new songs tonight. But I'm going to miss it. And if you're going, take video. Tag me in video. I want to see it. I've got a game to work tonight in Montgomery. But you might be dodged in rain, so I'd bring a poncho, bring a slicker. Nick, where are you at on Treaty Oak Revival?
I honestly never listened to them till I heard you talk about them. And I agree. You mentioned they were a lot like Whiskey Myers, and I would agree with that assessment.
It's like a Whiskey Myers, Co-Wetzel kind of combination to their music. I liked early Co. I haven't really listened to any of his stuff lately. He tends to get a little bit off the rails, but he's fun. Hey, Nick, what's going on with the peanut gallery in the back?
The peanut gallery?
They were cackling so loud, and I think I got a good idea.
None of them are working, of course. They're just back there.
The one over your left shoulder is probably the ringleader.
Yeah, typically.
Both of them, matter of fact.
It's like a tornado of distractions back here, but yeah.
It's all you need is Allie and Katie.
I haven't heard them today.
I know, but that's kind of funny because I'm complaining about noise in the back, and we haven't heard Allie and Katie, the two loudest individuals that work at this company. Billy would argue that I'm probably amongst the top
two. He would say you.
All right, so how do we tap dance through this thing until Billy gets back? I got to wish a happy belated 80th birthday to Coach R.C. Slocum, a man who he probably doesn't know this, and it doesn't matter to him, but I have a very similar background to R.C. Slocum. We're both from Southeast Texas. He's from Orange. I'm from Nederland. We both played sports at McNeese in Louisiana. We both found our way to College Station and have stuck around in the sports scene here. I can remember growing up, and so if anybody cares about how I became an Aggie, I grew up, my dad and uncle went to A&M. So I grew up going to bonfires. I was at the Cotton Bowl game and was sitting 3 rows away from where Quentin Coriat sacked Casey Weldon in the end zone in the freezing cold rain in Dallas, the only 2 points A&M scored in that Cotton Bowl, losing to Florida State. My grandparents, God rest their souls, would bring me to 2 or 3 A&M football games every year, and that was a big deal. It was like getting up early, driving from Southeast Texas. Back then, you had to take 105 the whole way. Like there wasn't an I-10 to 610 to 290 to 6 that got you here quicker. We drove down Highway 105, and we went through Batson and Saratoga and Moss Hill and Cleveland and Cut and Shoot and the whole way. And it's like those are such vivid memories of me growing up, and we were coming up to College Station to watch R.C. Slocum's Aggies play. And so a lot of the memories that are tied to my childhood, I was sitting 2 rows in the north end zone, 2 rows up on the first deck, the 99 bonfire game. So like all of these R.C. Slocum memories, like, excuse me, his coaching tenure at A&M is how I grew up on Aggie football. And I'm no different than a lot of people that are listening to the show. So I just want to say happy birthday, Coach Slocum. Thank you for your contributions to Texas A&M and to Southeast Texas and to McNeese State. It means a lot, at least to one person, at least to me, all those things that you did. And it was cool to see him get recognized yesterday. Still the greatest coach in Texas A&M football history. Hopefully Mike Elko makes a dent into that. Got a long way to go, but I'm sure Coach Slocum's pulling just as hard for him for Coach Elko to be successful as anybody. So last night, interesting game in the NFL. Nick, did you get to see any of it?
No, I was actually at a concert myself. So I went and saw William Beckman at the Tap. He played an acoustic set. He was awesome.
That was
awesome.
Good, huh? I've heard good things. He's a younger guy?
Good. Yeah, he's young.
Yeah. Him and, the other kid that I'm hearing a lot about, is it Ty Myers?
Yeah. Callie actually put me on to him.
He's 17?
He's 17.
Ty Myers.
I saw him last year when he was 16. He came to College Station. It was so good.
Okay, so maybe I need to start listening to Ty Myers. I know the baseball guys have been all over him, and they were backstage because they're everywhere right now. The baseball guys are like everywhere you go, there's baseball guys kind of front and center. What was the crowd like last night?
Full.
Concerts at the Tap are some of my favorite if they're not too full.
Yeah, because their night. Well, we got there early enough to where we were up in a good spot, so we weren't packed in there, crowded or anything. But I mean, it was a full house in there to see him. But yeah, I didn't. You never know really what to expect from an acoustic set because that's all it was. It was him, a fiddle player, and a guitar. A rhythm guitarist, and again, they were awesome. So well worth going to see him, I think.
The Tap has to be called a legendary establishment in this town now. It's like the Tap, the Dixie Chicken. These places have withstood the test of time. I love the folks that run the Tap, Nathan, John, Miller. They've been great to me. But it's still, and I would tell those guys this to their face, when it gets shoulder to shoulder in there, it gets real stuffy. My favorite Tap is an almost empty Tap.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
I get that.
It's beautiful. Anyway, back to my original point. Baltimore rallies and beats the Bengals. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I saw a thread on the board about watching Lamar Jackson play quarterback and how it's similar to Marcel Reed. I hope that it ends up being similar to Marcel Reed. I hope that's the trajectory that Marcel is on. But I think in terms of A&M fans looking at it schematically, how Baltimore uses Lamar's legs in the run game and then, all their run packages off of it. Lamar has improved so much as a passer. I think Marcel is getting better, but if he can make those kind of jumps as a passer, obviously what it could do to A&M's offense. And I just think people are wanting to be nitpicky right now because of the way the offense looked at South Carolina. They only scored 20 points. But if you go back and you look at it on the totality as a whole, they were leading the SEC in scoring until that game in Columbia and had gone on a run of, 34 against Mississippi State, 41 against Mizzou. They scored, 21 against Arkansas. Who am I missing in here? I'm missing somebody. There's the schedule. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, so Mizzou 41, Mississippi State 34, LSU 38, and then only 20 last week against South Carolina. And, the interception at the 17-yard line going in was one of the key plays of the game. It was the only time I've seen Marcel panic. I thought he's made some bad decisions, and that's fine. You're going to make bad decisions over the course of the season and playing quarterback. That was the first time I'd seen him panic and then make a bad decision. So I'm still not out on this offense. I think people are worried about because, if you lose your best player like Le'Veon Moss. Well, let me tell you something. That the Baltimore Ravens, even at the professional level, if they lose Derrick Henry, they're going to have problems. And not only have you lost Le'Veon Moss, it's kind of been a revolving door at that left guard between TJ Shanahan and Cam Dewberry. I think the underrated part of what we haven't talked enough about is the injury to Chase Basantis and how that's kept him out probably longer than expected when he limped off the field at Starkville. And that's a massive injury. And the A&M offense was really humming and started to you started to see consistencies in how things were blocked and the consistencies of the timing and the efficiency of how the running game was working. And so people want to live in a microwave right now thing, and I get it. You're emotional after a loss. I really wasn't as tore up after the South Carolina loss because, again, I'd gone into the LSU game going, okay, you got to split these. You got to split these for that last 3-week stretch to really mean something. You needed to split them, and they did. And really, Not only did you need to split them, you would have preferred to do it. If you're going to split them, you would have preferred to do it the way A&M did. You'd rather have beaten LSU and lost to South Carolina because now you have a head-to-head over LSU, which you may need to get to Atlanta. So you always want to win every game. I understand that. I didn't think that winning every game was going to be feasible in Mike Elko's first year with his amount of roster turnover as A&M had. The coaching staff has done a masterful job to get to this point in the season to where they're going into this second bye week. They're looking at a schedule that includes a glorified scrimmage against New Mexico State, a road trip to a bad Auburn team. I know you can lose that game. You can lose that game if you don't have Chase Basantis. You're not going to have Le'Veon Moss. Jordan-Hare's a tough place to play. Auburn, I know they haven't won a bunch of games, but they have been competitive at different points in the season. Sure, you can lose that game. It's a game you should win. If those things happen and you roll into November 30th against Texas with a shot to go to Atlanta on the line, man, how many Aggies would have absolutely taken that without question, without knowing what the season entailed, would have taken that scenario on August 1st? Nick, would you have?
Without a doubt. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I know it's still too early to give a whole like overarching grade on a season, right? Because obviously there's games still to be played, but like you just said, given what we know now, like you're in contention in November, you're already looking at a really, really good grade, regardless of how this season finishes out.
Yeah, and, obviously if they went 0-3, we'd have a really different discussion. But to me, it comes down to the Auburn game, right? If you win at Auburn, then there's a term that I grew up with in Southeast Texas and then in Southwest Louisiana called lanyap. Nick, you know what lanyap means?
I do not.
McKinley, do you know what lanyap means? Lanyap means like icing on the cake, the cherry on top. That's what lanyap means. It's just a little something extra. So I think if you are at 9-2 going into Texas, then like the Texas game is lanyap. I didn't expect for A&M to be there. I'm not trying to demean the result of that game because I know what the magnitude of winning it would mean for a lot of Aggies personally, and then what it would mean for the season, and what it would mean for this football program, that you're going to an SEC title game, something that you've never done in this sport. So again, I'm not trying to belittle the accomplishment of beating Texas, both personally for the fan base and the kids and the coaching staff, but also for the gravitas of what it means for the program. What I'm saying is I didn't expect Mike Elko to be there in year one. So yeah, losing to Texas at Kyle would hurt, but I don't know. I'm confident in the direction of the program. I'm confident in the guy leading the program. A lot of people were saying that in the first year of Kevin Sumlin. A lot of people may have been saying that after the first year of Jimbo Fisher. They were especially saying it after year 3 of Jimbo Fisher. So you never really know. You never really know. And that's why I hesitate to be definitive as an analyst. And it's probably one of my downfalls in what I do is I just hesitate to be definitive and make definitive statements about something that is as fluid as college athletics in every facet, every arena of college athletics, especially now in NIL, in portal, and the fluidity of player transfer movement. Like, how can you ever be definitive about things? It's why I had such a big problem when Mike Elko was hired with all these Aggie fans that wanted to say, he's not a good recruiter. And I'm like, how do you know that? How do you know that? He was a defensive coordinator here. He did not have access to all the resources that this place has. I believe that he would be a good recruiter. And I knew the battles that he won as a defensive coordinator here. I don't get it. Like, fast forward this in an arena where I'm much more familiar with is baseball. Like Mike Early hasn't coached. Mike Early has the same amount of head coaching wins in college baseball as Kay Naegeli does, and Callie Garner and Nick Savage and myself combined. So you don't really know how he's going to be. And that's why it's been so intriguing for myself to go out there and watch Coach Early and watch him grow in that role. But we think they're going to be really good. And I trust Mike Early, and I've watched him grow, and I see him get more confident in the role, and I think that team's going to be really good. But you just don't speak in definitives, right? Okay, you just don't speak in definitives when you're talking about college sports. it just doesn't. You're setting yourself up to look really foolish, and maybe that doesn't bother you. I know it certainly doesn't bother a lot of the anonymous trolls, both on Twitter and some of them even on our website. All right, Billy's back. We'll go to a break here. When we come back, we'll get to Billy's thoughts about the slate of games that I picked out. So we'll go back to McKinley, and then we'll just kind of see what his bye week thoughts are and what A&M's going through right now. I know there was some questions maybe about that Pete Thamel tweet, so we'll see if he wants to answer that. All right, a lot more with Billy Liucci when we come back on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, headed toward the bottom of the 10 o'clock hour. Ryan Brauninger, the B-Team edition of TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Let's give away a car wash. Right now, be caller number 1. We'll give you a free car wash from Aggieland Express Car Wash in South College Station off of William D. Fitch and Greens Prairie. Aggie owned and operated with the friendliest staff and personal touch. They offer monthly memberships, but we'll give you the first caller right now a free car wash from Aggieland Express in South College Station, 979-693-1150. Dude, I'm on E.
Why?
Well, I had that
rough night's sleep? Or?
Well, I had that game last night in Temple. It was an hour 15 rain delay.
Oh, you had to stay after.
Yeah, and so I had to stay after and take pictures and talk to
Elko
him.
and I saw that video, and I was telling him
What video?
Of the rain.
Oh, yeah.
I sent it to him, but we were talking. I was telling the story about you leaving the game because of the spider bite, and he said,
That was
"Man,
not even true."
He said, "Man, it would be really nice." You know, he's like, "I remember when you guys had great coverage of Houston area recruiting."
I've been waiting all day in Houston for a training session that didn't end up happening that Jalen Waddle was going to be at, and I got bit by a spider. I waited all day in Houston and decided I'd had enough and was driving back. It wasn't for a game. The story's more funny.
The fact that you even defended yourself.
The story's more funny if you say it was for a game, and then now the head coach. Yeah,
are you going? You going hunting with Nuno after?
No,
this?
I'm not. This isn't. This was again. Was clean, and if I did go hunting, I certainly would have done a different way than David did it. I'll leave it at that.
You want to know a funny speaking of like me giving you hell in a made up scenario, I was about to make a comment, make a joke about this hoodie and be like, well, I just found this hoodie because I just bought it. And remember this is the best inadvertent troll job I've ever had, which was these Longhorn fans still cling to it to this day. It literally, you had people on other message boards of a rival fan base talking about it as if it was this massive gotcha moment. And there's this one guy that will still bring it up like, man, he's got this over me forever and I'll never recover from it. When I posted one day, and you know how everybody goes, first.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, this is new. So it's like instead of saying first, I said, great, nice hoodie, Luch, or something. And I posted it under my name.
Yeah,
and they literally were like, this guy forgot his burner. I mean, of all the things I try to do to get them cooked up, the one when I'm not might have worked as good as anything.
There's half of me that believes that you do have a burner, but
I actually don't.
I know, but the other half that doesn't is the fact that I know how your brain works, and I'm like, how could he ever keep it straight? If you had a burner, you would have had
many setbacks.
A lot of them. A bunch of them.
But the other thing you know about me is like with my free time, like as much as I say from my actual name, would I ever take and waste the time, or even like the time that it would take, like versus other things I could do with that time? As you know, like all the whatever it is I like to do in my spare time, people around here know that. Like there's a million different things, right? The last thing is going to be to run. The one thing I did do years ago was we had a buddy that created a fake account, and for some reason, I don't know why he named himself.
Steve McKinney?
He named himself the Crop Duster.
Steve McKinney.
No, it was just a guy. Like actually, you do know him, but he made the name the Crop Duster because I think he was regularly accused of said antic.
Did this guy used to work here?
No, but he's related to someone that did or does. Okay, so the plan was for him to just like say harass whoever and like say you, like go after you, like for fun one day, like start disagreeing with all your baseball takes or something and sign it and just be like at the end have kind of the built-in thing that just says you've been crop dusted. And just for fun, because this guy does have the time and the energy and he's kind of like one of these guys that you could just get to do whatever. If it's in the sake of funny or harassing people, he'll do it. So it was like,
we got to go to break.
You've been crop dusted.
I need to know who this is because I've got so many like names firing through my brain. No, we don't have to.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I just wanted to remind myself. All right. So we're doing we did pick them, but it's not for real. But with a bye week, there was nothing else left to do. And I thought with the intriguing slate of games that we could talk about some of the games going on this weekend, I do want to, McKinley, can you read the text, Angry Elephant News and Social Center, McKinley Plansky. Somebody had a text, I believe, about the FAML thing.
Yes.
Okay.
About the DB.
Yes.
Running back,
Yeah.
Rob asked, hello, is it true a DB is practicing at running back?
I didn't know if you had addressed that yet. I thought you maybe had mentioned something with Nuno earlier in the week, but I couldn't remember.
No, and here's the thing. I'm not going to say because I'll find out with 100% certainty today. Just a question that I have not asked during the bye week. I fully expect that they've got someone working, but here's the deal. That's an emergency running back situation. I don't think that is a let's get a running back ready to play ahead of E.J. Smith or I'm sure they're expanding Terry Bussey's capability lining up in the backfield. Okay. Do I think they're going to convert Terry Bussey to tailback with 3 games left and hopefully more and just make him be a guy that's getting you 12, 14 carries in a game? No. Do I think they're going to work on him to where he's more capable to handle some more touches out of the back? Yes. And particularly in that zone read game with Marcel. Obviously, they had a fumbled exchange last week. That's something that not only with him, but Marcel will be working on with everyone. And no, so I think without question they've got to move a third tailback in case something were to happen to Amari or EJ that's not named Terry Bussey.
I mean, there's a world where you're playing how many more games?
8.
I know. So by
the way, if they do that, I think you'd see Ruben Owens back. I don't want to say that to get everyone's hopes up. I remember I just said 8 more games. I said that's till mid-January. Okay. Now, what would be interesting to me would be if A&M made a playoff, because Elko kind of alluded to it, and Ruben's dad mentioned it, and I'd heard that even prior to Ruben's dad tweeting it. It was something that was told to me in that don't get your hopes up for Auburn. I would say don't even get your hopes up for Texas. But if A&M were to make a playoff and play 2 weeks later and play in mid-December, I do think that would be something that, as we sit here today, I would call a possibility.
That'd be fascinating.
It would be really, could you imagine, it's almost like adding to your MLB roster right before the playoffs.
Yeah, but the thing is he wouldn't, obviously he'd be fresh, but he wouldn't be lathered into the season and hasn't run in this offense.
But here's the deal, Bronny. When Mike Elko, what he was talking about, Jabri Barber, their plan the entire time, once he was ahead of schedule with a very similar injury, I think, the plan was Arkansas. And that was what I had kind of heard during camp, even as maybe after Notre Dame time, Arkansas. I think it was during camp, weeks in advance. It was Arkansas, and what that was the thought process, and what they meant by that was full speed, ready to go, playing.
Yeah, we saw him against
football.
McNeese was his
and
first.
We saw him against McNeese, and you saw him against Florida. He scored that touchdown that got called back. But really, where he was 100% Jabri Barber and was around that time of Arkansas, and maybe a week sooner. So, when I say that game, and I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but if he's out there on the field playing, I think he would be full speed. Ruben Owens, they wouldn't put him out there until he was at. In other words,
I'm not saying that he wouldn't be full speed. What I'm saying is that position, what it requires physically, you need a little bit of lathering up, for lack of a better term.
I would agree with that.
But he's super talented. You got to put him on the field.
Drastic times call for drastic measures. So
sure, if you're playing in a play, I'm not saying that you hold him. I'm just saying I'd be really interested to see how he looks.
Yeah. Well, I think if he took the field and was playing in a playoff game in mid-December, I think he would have been practicing for multiple weeks prior. He might have even been, if he's to do that, he might have been practicing prior to Texas. But just like you said,
not quite able to go because of the exact reasons you're talking about, and then potentially be. But I mean,
well, you want to talk
it's a
about not
long way
only
off.
impacting, trying to replicate what you lost with Le'Veon out of the backfield. Ruben
Different.
Owens is different, man.
Yeah.
Like he is legitimately receiving threat out of the backfield.
It's a shame, man. Like imagine in a world where those two are healthy and really, because we saw it with Le'Veon hitting his stride. And like, imagine if you'd have had that plus Ruben. And Amari's done a great job this year.
He's been great. Yeah, he's been like underrated, really probably we don't talk about it enough.
I've been talking about it a lot because I think ever since about game 4, you're starting to really, and I thought he was that guy last year. Just an unsung, like, hey, people don't appreciate, he's a pretty good back. And now this year I think he's taken another step. Now he's going to have to be that guy that just, I think, really elevates. Can you play out of your mind for 2 football games? The blocking's going to have to help. Speaking of that, a guy that should be back before we see, like, Ruben Owens in the backfield is Chase Besantis. And I don't know, again, which game that is. And for the exact reasons you said, like, you'd love to get him one game where he's getting used to being back out there and the pads popping and the rhythm and the timing of everything. So that's coming up. I don't know if that's Auburn, if that's Texas,
but it's not New Mexico
playoff
State.
Game. I don't see why on earth you would do that.
Well, you talk about getting him reps and getting him
I don't think
back.
you even could. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it would be great if you would see him next weekend for that very reason, just to shake the rust off and everything. But I don't think if he'd be back that early. I'd be surprised.
You know what's an underrated offseason conversation that I think not many people are looking to have or haven't even thought about having is what happens at running back.
Mm-hmm.
They're bringing in one out of the high school ranks, but what does the room look like going into next spring?
No doubt.
Le'Veon's got a big decision to make. I imagine Amari will come back, right? Yeah, and then Ruben obviously come back healthy. So it could be the best back in the.
Le'Veon's decision is really interesting with the injury he sustained. Like
no combine stuff,
nothing, and won't be. So that complicates it, which sucks because I know he's got family that he's takes care of, including children.
Kids,
he's got a couple kids and had a great year and positioned himself to really get to where he wanted to be. And then this injury, you wonder how much that robbed it. And by the way, in the world of NIL, can he come back, be on his own timeline, and get paid a pretty penny as well? So be an interesting one.
We come back, we're going to pick some games. That's Billy Liucci. I'm Ryan Brauninger. This is TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, taking you home here on a Friday morning. Let's give away some pizza. Caller number 12 at 979-693-1150 will hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or one large topping pizza from Double Dave, serving Aggieland and beyond since 1984. Your favorite pizza, world-famous pepperoni rolls, reliable in-house delivery bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. Billy, let's pick some games. This will not count toward your overall pick 'em, which, by the way, kudos to you. You're 10 games over 500 against the spread. If you were betting real money, you'd be
flush with cash.
Flush with cash. Can we clip that move? But no, that's a really good record, and you're tied with, I think,
I don't know which one of the babbling McKinneys it is, but that kind of takes away from
one of the brothers Grimm.
Yeah, that takes away from it a little bit, doesn't
All right, so McKinley's got our lineup. Some of these are a little gross, but we're going to talk about them anyway. Go ahead.
Yes. Florida is traveling to Texas. They're playing at 11 a.m. on ABC, and Texas is favored by 21.5 points.
And DJ Lagway has practiced some this week.
Mm-hmm. Have you talked to your Florida people? Have you been interested enough to ask them?
I asked them not about Lagway. I asked them about the statement from Scott Strickland about Billy Napier's future.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me like what they said is he had essentially executive power to make the decision because there's no president currently. And Napier's super popular with the players.
They will fire Napier, in my opinion, if they get their butts handed to them the rest of the way. Florida's got to show some competitive fight, in my opinion.
So you think that was hollow?
I don't think they believe it's hollow. I think that temperature could go up enough where it's not.
Well, if Strickland does that and then you fire Billy Napier, you got to fire him too.
Yeah, that's true. Now, but I do think, and they could.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people above Strickland on that org chart, in Gainesville. But I've liked the way Florida's been playing, and I like the idea of doing it to help Billy Napier recruit, to help whatever behind-the-scenes discussions are going on with DJ Lagway, which I know a lot of people around college football have assumed was going to transfer after this year anyway. And by the way, I don't believe for a second that that's a locked-in done deal that he would stay.
Florida folks do.
I know they do. I mean, I think you're being naive if you think.
No,
not you.
Yeah.
I think anybody that thinks in that situation. And by the way, as I say that, like if you said put your money you've won off these picks this year being 10 games over, my money would go on him staying as long as Napier's there, which I think is a big part of this whole situation because there is something to be hopeful about at Florida enough, Bronny, to not cut that check. If those two worlds were a little closer to meeting, then I think you could cut ties with Napier. But there's enough excitement, and that price tag is still so high. I don't say excitement. There's enough reason to say, okay, I could see where there's some hope here.
Well, and Pate made a good point that this revenue sharing model, like everybody's about to incur a lot more debt with nothing to combat
no
that.
revenue, yeah.
Right. So everybody's playing position. Yeah. And then who else is out there? Who are you going to go hire? Is Lane hireable? Is Signetti hireable? Is Signetti a one-year mercenary in Bloomington?
I would be nervous about, I'm just telling you, like, A&M knew so much more about Mike Elko than his 2 years as a head coach. A year, 2 years, for Signetti at that level, 1 year. Lane Kiffin I'm just telling you, man, I'm just telling you, I believe that guy makes ADs and university presidents and the like very nervous as far as committing that much to him with his personality. Like I'm just telling you, I know fans, there were a ton of people that were lining up. Lane Kiffin, A&M was never going to hire him. And I know he can go out and beat Georgia this week and you say, well, that was stupid. You're not putting yourself in the position of a decision maker at a major state university and committing that amount of money that it will take to get him out of there. And so that's a problem that Florida would have to wrestle with and pay off Napier. Those two things don't mesh, in my opinion.
Okay, let's pick this game, and then we're going to go to an early break.
Texas is getting lucky, okay? Let's talk about that before the break and then do the picks because we can run a little long.
Yeah, we can go after the 11 o'clock. Let's cut it here because we're up against the commercial now.
Lagway injury, Taylon Green potential injury, and we'll talk.
Okay, we'll get McKinley. We're coming right back to you. I promise. All right, TexAgs Live. We're probably going to go a little bit past 11. No big deal. Stay with us on the site. Stay with us on YouTube. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
I love. Are we back?
Yeah.
I love how you claim the city of Houston and you're not even free. You haven't sniffed the city of Houston.
Listen, man, I walk around Missouri City, Sugarland, and nobody can tell me anything about Billy Liucci.
Absolutely, they could.
Except for Coach McDowell, who's now at Grand Oaks, who said that, and he was at Richmond Foster for a long time. He said that he got tired of cleaning the bird crap off the Billy Liucci statue at Sugar Mill Elementary.
Which means there's a statue there. McDowell, he's great.
He's awesome.
The best.
All right, Ryan Brauninger, Billy Liucci, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. This is the final segment on radio of this program. We are probably going to go long. We're going to reset the board with McKinley Polanski, Angry Elephant News and Social Center, so we can pick these games.
We're going long.
We're going to go long. So we're probably going to talk through the break. It'll just go to commercial. If you're listening to us on 1150, it'll go to the Louis Bellina show on the other side of this. I'm not panicking. I don't do this every day. Somebody who's been panicking today.
Laid back, man.
Oh, is it?
With my mind on my money and my money on my mind.
What about our favorite Will Johnson? He's very casual.
Will, as he starts doing interviews, it's just like he just starts going. So that game against
trying to get his feet on the table. Love you, Will.
I hate you, Will.
All right, reset the board.
You know, Will and I have been friends since actually like long before he was working at A&M. It goes back to the Columbus days of Matt Schobel.
Oh, yeah.
I think Y2K, I was in Columbus. What a miserable New Year to be sitting in Columbus with all those rats. I was down there with Schobel in downtown, like Columbus, just
town
down
square.
there, literally town square. When it turned Y2, so who knew? Like that could have been just the end of the world, right? Everything shuts down, and I'm stuck in Columbus with the Schobels. I mean, there is not a more miserable bunch.
Was Leckler around then?
Than Matt, Aaron, and no, Leckler wasn't there.
Jeez.
Every once in a while, I'll send Schobel, or he'll send me a picture of that night. It's me and him and this guy that I brought down there with me so I could have a driver. Because I was like, we're coming back that night. So we went down there, and it was a picture of him and my buddy, Novi, who drove me down there, and it's those two. And it just sums up the night. Like, Schobel's looking at me like, don't take this damn picture. And I took it. So every once in a while, I'll send him that picture from December 31st, 1999 in Columbus.
I wish I had a snapshot of every Billy Liucci New Year from about 96 to 2007.
I'm that guy. I get pissed when there's not a bowl game to go around New Year because it forces you to have a plan, and I can just then you're like I haven't enjoyed like.
Hold on, you like being organized?
Just on New Year's because because I'm not organized. I never commit to anything. I don't like dressing up in a freaking tux to go to a party.
I hate that.
So I'm like. Going to one year I did that fancy type thing. I'm like, never again. Other years, like I prefer a bowl game, so I have a text
I need to read.
Go ahead. Text read.
The text says you have let him get off track! ! Take charge of the show.
Who the hell said that? Are you serious? Is that coming from Louis?
No. JT.
Oh, I thought it was like Louis. I'm like, we're off the KZ&E clock now. JT's just pissed. Tell JT to quit interrupting the show with fake business that I thought I had to leave to go eat breakfast for like an actual business.
That was for him?
Yeah, and it was like nothing. We're having like a dog play date today. Like I thought he portrayed it as work. We're recording a podcast next week.
Listening.
All it took was one text message to just say, hey, can we do the podcast this day? Instead, there's a breakfast. I thought it was a real...
I wouldn't have read that if it came from somebody serious, but because it came from JT, I felt like it had to go on.
Yeah, no.
All right, let's pick some games.
And we are off track. We got all the time in the world.
Reset the board, going from the top, McKinley.
Because I'm not doing Ask Liucci with Zane until like 11:30 today, so you're in trouble.
Yeah, we're about to go off air on the zone. Keep it with us on YouTube and on TexAgs. All right.
You want me to go back to Texas?
Yeah, let's start from the top.
Okay.
We have a representative.
Uh-oh.
Florida is traveling to Texas. They're playing at 11 a.m. on ABC. And Texas is favored by 21 and a half.
Yeah, I'm over here looking at I mean, some of the I'm just on a greatest hits of Donald Trump, like at press conferences, deep dive on Twitter right now, and it's pretty. If there's anyone that's better at nicknames than me, it's got to be him. These are a little more insulting.
I don't know what Bevo against whatever the Florida mascot. I'm talking about nicknames.
Willie the Gator? No, it's not
Al.
Willie.
Albert.
Albert. Yeah, Big Al. No,
that's
Al. Is Alabama Big Al?
Yeah, right? No.
What's the Florida
Is the
Gator?
elephant Big Al? I think the Florida one is Albert.
Albert the
but
Gator?
Big Al, I thought, is the Alabama elephant.
It is Albert the Gator.
Okay. And I am still going to go on this rant of we've got to get old Sarge at basketball games. We're the only team in the history of March Madness that doesn't have a freaking costumed mascot down on the field. And I think a costumed Reveille would scare people. Plus, we have the real Reveille. We don't need a costume.
Have you seen
Reveille.
the old school costume, Old Sarge?
Yeah.
Talking about scare
that would
people.
Be sick.
No,
that would be sick. Like, intimidate the
Nick,
other
can
team.
you pop that picture up? Can you find the old
yeah,
Sarge?
That would be badass. Like the guy shooting a free throw and he catches it out of the corner of his eye and old Sarge is just sitting there looking at him.
It's most heinous.
Also, Florida should start the process of getting like a 12 to 14, 15-foot alligator.
Real gator.
On the sideline when LSU comes in there because these yahoos are putting a live tiger down there again. I'm old enough to remember when Baylor had a live bear down there. Did you see? I saw a tweet saying that they've dug up this guy that's bringing the tiger to Death Valley this weekend. He has lost tigers allegedly twice, like where they've gotten out.
That's something that's like you can't lose the tiger.
I mean, have you watched the Tiger King?
If you lose a head of cattle, okay, like that can happen. But a tiger?
Have you seen where the 40 monkeys got loose?
Where at?
North or South Carolina. 40 rhesus monkeys.
Rhesus?
Yeah.
They eat candy?
No, they're called rhesus monkey. I believe that's the pronunciation too. They have gotten loose from a damn bio facility.
What?
Yeah,
are you
it's like
about?
nightmare fuel, like the stuff out of movies. 40 monkeys.
Indo-Chinese racist macaques?
Racist macaques?
No.
Rhesus monkeys is what they're called.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's your live match. I'm glad we're not on real radio after that exchange.
This is fun, dude.
Are you going to pick the game?
I got... Keep reading about the monkeys, by the way. I've got...
I'm not, after how
I have...
Southeast Texas accents in that.
That's
Name
a
that.
problem. Yeah, that
name
didn't
that
fit.
monkey.
Those two didn't mesh. I got because Lagway's, I just can't imagine Lagway being effective. The way he went out of that game, I just can't imagine him coming in with him being a dual threat, being very effective. This third string guy from Yale, you may as well roll out a potato out on the field and have him play quarterback. So I think Florida's going to have a really hard time scoring points. I think Texas eventually pulls away. I'm actually
big number.
I know, and I think I'm going to pick Texas because this fits their MO. Like they're going to start once again believing they're the best team in college football, bar none. Georgia silenced them and did a favor to the whole country for a couple weeks. It's going to start this buildup now when they play the third string Florida quarterback. They're going to end up lucking into playing like not Taylon Green and another guy that can't complete a forward pass. So the buildup is going to start. Brock Vandergriff, who is one of the worst quarterbacks in the SEC. The buildup will begin this weekend. They'll start comparing scores, and they don't give a damn about how disingenuous it is. And they'll be like, look, we beat them by this much, and Georgia and A&M and all these ranked teams only beat them by. And so get ready for that.
I got Gators covering.
You do? I know.
I like how they played against Georgia, and what has Texas done in the last couple of weeks to convince me that they're ready to go up and down the field. Quinn Ewers, his pressure to sack rate is like the worst in the country.
I know.
So if you are able to break through the line of scrimmage, he goes down.
It'll be interesting to see how Florida.
Texas wins. I think Florida covers.
It'll be interesting to see how Florida plays it. When you're playing Texas now, it's really interesting. One of the more interesting things this season has been how much zone coverage Georgia threw in that game against the Longhorns. Georgia doesn't do that. Kirby Smart doesn't do that. They did that. Texas was completely ineffectual on offense, and Ewers was shook. So how is Florida going to play it? how are they going to approach it?
Also,
if you dare those receivers to beat you in man-to-man, it'll be bombs away, and yours will look like Bama Ewers last year.
Yep. All right, McKinley, next one.
Miami is traveling to Georgia Tech. They're playing on ESPN at 11 a.m., and Miami's favored by 13 points.
Get Haynes King a game time decision. This is a really tough one to me because of that number. Miami has played with their food a lot this year.
They've played down a lot.
But they rally in the second half. I'm going to take Miami because I think Cam Ward's on this kind of Heisman trajectory. But I would Georgia Tech's a live dog here to me because of how they play. I like Brent Key. I feel like they're a tough team.
You're going to use every cliche in the book, right? Live dog, play with their food.
That's all. I'm the backup, dude. That's B team. What are you supposed to do?
I mean,
you're asking for depth of commentary.
Billy Buchanan. You got all the B's today. Bowell, Jason Bowell,
the Bowell movement. Howell's new podcast. All right, I'm taking Miami. Who are you taking?
I'm taking Miami. I like Miami in that one too. Same reason. I think Cam Ward should win the Heisman if they have an undefeated season.
Not the best odds right now.
I know. And this whole thing, I think Travis Hunter is the best football player in the country, but that Big 12, and then he was injured for a couple weeks, and Ashton Genty's been incredible, but to me they've played one team with a pulse, obviously more than a pulse. They're the number one team, and he did play well against them, but I just think week in and week out, what he's doing, and especially if they win out, they'd have to win an ACC title game. I mean, who's that going to be against? It'll be SMU probably at this rate.
I mean, now that Clemson's lost again, yeah.
I mean, Clemson's lost one in conference, right? And SMU's lost one. Is that in conference? I believe it is.
No, SMU lost to BYU.
That's right. So SMU, I mean, you're likely SMU Miami, which, by the way, would be a really entertaining and competitive game, in my opinion. I think that would be a hell of a game. Do you not?
No.
You don't?
I think you're getting too deep into the waters talent.
I don't think Miami's that deep in the water.
SMU. Offensively, I think they would go up and down, and they would offer enough resistance. Look, their defense is bad, but they're playing real offenses, and I do think
what real offenses, though? Like, we're talking about Georgia Tech as a threat this week. What, Virginia Tech? That's a real offense?
No, but I think Louisville's a real offense.
Louisville is, but, I mean, how real was Louisville's offense against Notre Dame's defense?
Duke and SMU shut down Duke, and Duke had some success against Miami. Now, it completely flipped at halftime.
Yeah.
But I think this is a bad year in college football to be playing transitive properties.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so up and down.
I just think watching SMU, I'm with you. Like, there's a talent limitation for them. Like, that's why it'd be frustrating. There's going to be a couple of teams that get in this playoff that are going to frustrate you. And they might even play well in, like, a game, but they're not going to win. They certainly aren't going to make any kind of run, and you're probably going to leave off a team or two that otherwise could. I mean, that's any.
What do you think a line between Miami and SMU would be? 8.5?
Less than what they're playing Georgia Tech, obviously, and yeah, I'd probably say like a touchdown, 6.5, 7.5.
Okay. All right, McKinley. Next one, big one.
Georgia is traveling to Ole Miss. They're playing at 2:30 p.m. on ABC, and Georgia is favored by 2.5 points.
I like the Rebels to win it.
I do, too.
I would take the points. If you're going to give me some points, I'll take them.
Man, right now, how much do you trust
Carson Beck?
Carson Beck on the road against the best defense they'll play this year. The second best, I think, was Texas. Let's call them the same if you want. Call them the same. I think Ole Miss is better up front than Broughton and Alfred Collins and company. But let's call them equal. And the last time you saw Carson Beck do that, he threw 3 picks. Georgia's defense just got after Texas in a way that Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dart at home. Parrish is out, right? He's listed as out. I think he's just a guy. And I think that's the biggest thing Ole Miss has been missing this year is they went from Quinshon Judkins, and then they've had some really good backs. Right now, they just got guys. Georgia's O-line will whip Ole Miss's O-line's ass, but I don't know if that'll be enough. I think
Georgia's O-line will whip Ole Miss's O-line. What does that matter?
I mean, D-line will whip
Georgia.
Ole Miss's.
Yeah, I think that can be schemed around, especially with the legs of Jackson Dart. To me, when I look at this game, I think the wrong team's favored. Like, I think you're going off of Georgia's, I think, the pedigree, the name of the jersey, and also there is truth that Kirby Smart can get his guys up and ready to play better than just about anybody.
I'm also looking at, let's not give Ole Miss too much credit here. They lost to an LSU team that A&M just beat by 15. They did lose to Kentucky, who has turned out to be stinkfoot bad. I mean, they suck. And some certain teams have just pummeled Kentucky this year. Ole Miss lost to them at home. I know it's earlier in the year, but we're just trying. What they did that's very impressive is they went and beat the crap out of South Carolina. That one stands out, especially as we're sitting here talking after what we saw from South Carolina. But again, transitive property this year is tough. Ole Miss went in there. It was Sellers' first game back, okay? It was Sellers' first game back, and A&M went in there following that game against LSU with South Carolina on a bye week playing at night. It was a big difference, but it's still a really impressive win. But other than that, I don't think nothing Ole Miss did to Arkansas impressed me. With Taylon Green getting hurt again, LSU did essentially the same thing the week before. I mean, I do like Ole Miss, though. I don't know why I'm saying all this because I agree with you. Like, I think Ole Miss either wins the game at home, otherwise I'm going to take those points.
We have seen Georgia get run away from in a half against an offense that's not as explosive as Ole Miss.
By an Alabama team.
That's what I'm saying.
By an Alabama team that I really don't think is that good. And, I mean, literally a week later, they went in and got beat by Vandy where they couldn't stop them. And I know Pavia is good. Vandy's offense hadn't done that to anybody this year, what they did to Bama. I mean, they went up and down. They held the ball. They couldn't stop them. When the game turned into kind of a track meet down the stretch, they couldn't stop them. Here's my thing, though. I think Georgia, if I'm A&M and we're saying, hey, let me ask you this. Who do you like A&M's odds with more in a potential SEC title game out of
Georgia,
LSU, or Tennessee on a neutral site?
Tennessee.
I'd agree with that.
Until I see Nico play at a different level, Tennessee.
I'd agree with that. But here, let me ask you this. Who has a better running game?
Tennessee.
Who has...
But I like A&M against the run. I still think that last week at South Carolina is the anomaly.
I think Georgia's defense, when it's up, is still the best. Tennessee's got a really good defense and running game. I think those are pretty close if you ask me, but I'm with you. I think you can.
Hold on, you throw LSU in there? Yeah. I'd rather play LSU again.
I don't know. Because I think Georgia's problem scoring is something that will keep a lot of teams.
Here's the thing, though, about Nico. Nico's not turning the ball over like crazy. And Nussmeier and Carson Beck are.
Beck especially, though.
Beck's leading the league.
Nuss had that 3-pick game against.
Nuss has had multi.
He had 6 coming in.
But back-to-back games, multi-interception.
He had 6 coming in. To me, if he does it again this weekend at home against a Bama secondary that is not good,
LSU has to run the football.
I'm going to call him turnover prone. I'm not quite there yet.
Okay.
But I'm just telling you, I look at Georgia. And I see a team that I'll be really interested to see how many points they score against Ole Miss, a good defense, and how many points they score against Tennessee, a good defense.
Yeah, get back to me after they play a quarterback like Jackson Dart.
Yeah,
that can do something with his legs and see how.
And against defenses like Carson Beck threw 3 and 3, right?
Yeah.
And that was against what? Texas and then Florida. Georgia could have lost, like, if Lagway's healthy or even Mertz, they could have lost to Florida. They should have lost to Kentucky. They did lose to Bama where they were getting housed in the first half, like we said, by a team that hasn't done that to many teams this year. Georgia. But then
everybody's got warts, and that's what's fun about it,
then
right?
They pummel Clemson and they pummel Texas.
Right. And Tennessee should have lost to Florida at home.
No doubt.
Everybody's got warts. That's what's interesting.
A&M's just got to get there, man. And if we're talking about A&M in an SEC title game, regardless of opponent, we're going to be talking about them with a chance to win because there's no Nick Saban Alabama there. Not that A&M would be playing against them ever anyway. There's no Georgia is still. They might win a national title, but they are a clear step below what they've been recently.
Yep. All right, moving on.
All right. Michigan is traveling to Indiana. They're playing on CBS at 2:30 p.m. and Indiana is favored by 14 points.
What I said in the first hour with this game was, if you'd have told me in August that this game was going to have a 14-point line, I sure wouldn't have thought it would have been, Indiana, the one favored by 14. I would bet this game. I would pay the money to bet it down to 13.5 and then pick Indiana. Indiana, the closest game they've played so far this year against the bad schedule has been 14 points.
Signetti's been great. I'm
going to pick Indiana.
I am getting. Where's that game being played?
Bloomington.
It's playing at Indiana. Yeah.
And who are they playing again?
Michigan.
I know. That's why Michigan. To me, I said it before the year, Brauninger. When Texas, I said before the year they're not good. When Texas beat them, I said I thought Michigan would lose 4 or 5 games. My fifth, at the time, I'm looking at could they lose to Minnesota, which they almost did? Could they lose to Michigan State? I certainly thought they were going to lose to USC after seeing USC beat LSU with a quarterback who's since been benched. But I'm like, damn, who? Now that I look at Michigan, are they going to lose 6 or 7?
Probably 6 and 6.
Yeah, they're going to lose to Ohio State.
Yeah, I don't know.
And they're going to lose this one. I'm almost certain they're going to lose this one.
Well, they're going to lose, yeah.
I would go Indiana as well at home. If it was in Ann Arbor, I'd pick Michigan to make it a lot closer.
They did play hard last week against Oregon, but I think that was
the death rattle.
Yeah, I think that was the gas coming out of the tank there.
They rallied up and they gave it their last best shot.
All right, this next game I think is the most intriguing game in the country outside of the SEC.
Mm-hmm. Colorado is traveling to Texas Tech. They're playing at 3 p.m. on Fox, and Colorado is favored by 3 points.
I got the Red Raiders winning outright.
That is a fun game. I wish that I was. I wish that was a late night 9 p.m. start. And you could roll right in from Bama, LSU into that and just stay up till about 1 a.m.
And
maybe 2 a.m. with the way that game's going to be.
Colorado, they went on the road to Nebraska and lost. That's the toughest environment they've played in. They went to UCF and won. But I still don't even think Lubbock is different than Nebraska. Way different. And they're going to be.
Especially for a big game.
Yeah, they're going to be on it. That place is going to be electric. I like Taj Brooks. I think he's an NFL caliber running back.
Where'd he come from?
Maynard.
Boston area.
Yeah. And I think this is, I would probably lean toward betting the over. I'd bet the point total. But I like this spot for Texas Tech.
They're playing, they're coming off a huge win, obviously. Yes. Texas Tech recent history would tell you they're going to lose coming off a big win.
I like them coming off a big win on the road and coming home.
But I'm telling you, even that historically, we think of Texas Tech as the team that used to beat A&M regularly. Mike Sherman, of all people, ended that. Tech lost their last 3 to the Aggies on A&M's way out of the Big 12.
C-Mike had a big night in one of them, right?
C-Mike and Cyrus. I think they both went over 100 one year. But anyway,
it was at guard in that game.
I saw him last night. He came up and offered me, literally sitting there. I'm at dinner. He comes up. Someone's on my shoulder. He's like, "Hey, I'm heading out. You want some of this?" And he hands me a can of dip. So the Big Dipper was the guard. They overcame it. They won big. I think it's Colorado by 3.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to give me that in Lubbock in a big game, I'm going to go with Tim DeRuyter to get a couple of stops against a really good Colorado. Look, Deion Sanders
number on this game.
has done a lot better job this year than I think everyone expected, especially after they lost that game to Nebraska. They should have lost to Baylor. That was before anyone thought Baylor was respectable. But I think Tech gets them this weekend.
So just so we're up to date, it doesn't matter this because it's not for standings. That line has moved to 4.5.
What do you mean it's not for standings?
We're not picking these games. These are not official pick'ems that's going to go on your record.
Why?
Because we don't have the McKinneys here. We didn't send a list out. All that.
So Nuno got lazy.
I don't know.
He didn't want to do it. I mean,
I
say
wanted to do it
something,
because
Yoda, while you're out there hunting birds and sitting there posting Instagrams with your coffee. Why would we not do it this week? Caroline Fenton's remote. Jamie McCoy's remote.
Listen, man, I didn't get it. I wanted to kill. I thought it would be fun to talk about to kill some time on the radio show today.
But damn, I wouldn't have put this much into it. I would have just been
62.5 is the over/under. That's low to me. You're saying this can't be a 35-32 game? 35-31
yeah, but then it's
covers.
still not that much over. But I would agree.
Yeah, I think the over is the play there. All right, last one.
You're betting against DeRuyter.
No, I'm not betting against.
Sounds
them.
like
They're going
it
to win the game
from where I sit.
Last one, Alabama is traveling to LSU. They're playing on ABC at 6:30 p.m. and Bama is favored by 2.5 points.
I like LSU.
I like Bama.
You're going to give me LSU in Death Valley with a live Tiger on the field, coming off of what they feel like is a game they should have won. I don't believe that, but they
A&M needs LSU to win.
It would help.
It knocks Bama out, and you have the head-to-head over LSU.
It would help.
I cannot find it in myself to root for LSU.
I'm not saying I'm rooting for them.
I'd rather be on the Bama side. I don't know who's going to win, but if I had to pick, I'd rather be on the Bama side just so while I'm watching the game. I have a little bit more.
I plan to go to the game, so I'm going to kind of be rooting for LSU just because of the
yuck.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's just the way it is.
Are you just saying that? So you said it publicly, so now when you walk around Baton Rouge, I picked him. I said I was pulling
probably
for you
a little
guys.
bit of that, yeah.
You're going to get Tiger baited. Quinn Buchanan's listening. He sees right through your charade.
I'm picking LSU, and I'm rooting for LSU, and it does benefit A&M. I don't think it matters. At the end of the day, Bronny, we know where A&M's at. They are going to have to win out, and then the only question becomes if they beat Texas and went to the SEC title game.
How do you not get
lose?
in? How do you not get in? How do you not get in?
I can
what
paint
precedent?
you.
What precedent? But what precedent are you setting?
Precedent. We haven't. There's no precedent. Do you trust the committee to get this right in the first year of this thing? I don't.
So you're going to sit there and say, well, then what's the benefit of going to conference?
I think A&M, I don't need to argue with you on this from the standpoint of I tend to agree with what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, yeah, there's definitely a scenario, and I don't know what it is specifically, where they don't get in with that. And the problem would be like,
the bigger deal is you're playing for an SEC championship, which you've never done. You'd want to
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
We're not saying we want to lose it. We're doing what ifs here. The biggest what if is we're getting A&M past Texas. I mean, like to win an SEC title, A&M's going to have to go on the road to Jordan-Hare. They're going to have to beat number 5 Texas and either like number 6 Tennessee. Are they 6 or 7 right
7.
now? They're going to have to either beat number 5 Texas and then beat number 7 Tennessee or number 3 Georgia, whichever. That is likely what would have to happen. Now, it gets interesting if LSU wins tomorrow night, right? LSU still has to beat Florida on the road and Vandy, and maybe a healthy Lagway by that point. They have to beat Florida on the road and Vandy.
Do they have a cupcake? Is that their?
I think there are other ones. It's somebody in the SEC.
Oklahoma.
Which I think that's
They're
in
dead.
Baton Rouge, which makes that a cupcake.
Oklahoma's dead.
Literally, Oklahoma.
They better win in Columbia this week, or that's. How loud does it get for Brent Venables? Not yet. I don't think yet, but he goes into the offseason.
Next year, it could be carnage across the SEC because you got Napier, you got Venables. I think Mark Stoops is going to be on a proving ground next year. Is there anybody else?
Pittman,
Slinging Sammy Pittman.
If
people get mad when I call him Simple Sam Pittman, and I don't mean it like he's a simpleton. I mean it is he keeps it really. He's simple. Like I just think he is a nuts and bolts coach. There's not a lot of like. He's Simple Sammy Pittman. Simple Sammy Napier, Sunbelt Billy, former Texas A&M coach Mark Stoops, and Chet Venables. I think those four. Is there somebody else we're missing?
No, I don't think they're going to do anything with Levy, but he could have back-to-back 2 and 3 win seasons.
Yeah.
You know, but I think he's safe. No, it's.
And then if all those things happen, what happens with Lane Kiffin?
Yeah.
So there could be a lot of turnover in next year's SEC.
I don't
if
know.
Bama loses tomorrow night, they might be ready to run
Nate
off
Oates is going to be more popular than
crazy.
Kalen DeBoer.
That's wild.
We're off air. We're leaving. Luch, have a good weekend.
I might change my Texas pick to Florida covering, but it doesn't really matter because the games don't count, apparently.
All right. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks, Nick.